Chapter 12:15. The square was densely packed with umbrellas, and the tables under the umbrellas were almost full of people. Such a scene was very common on Sundays. Luocio walked through the gaps between the crowd and the tables and easily found Song Ying. She should have been here for some time. She had ordered a cup of iced black tea, and the straw was a little bit out of shape. She was holding her chin and looking at the family of 3 at the table next to her. Her legs were slightly kicked under the table, and she seemed to be a little absent-minded. "You like to drink cold things when it's cold? Are all your opening lines so weird?" Song Ying turned around and seemed to be a little reproachful. "Yes, I like to eat ice cream in winter. Is there a problem?" Luocio sat down and said indifferently, "Girls should be careful to keep warm. It's easy to have cold wounds if you eat cold things in winter." Cold wounds, cold wounds. Miss Ying's ears inexplicably heated up. As a woman, of course, she knew that cold wounds had many meanings, but this kind of topic was mostly between girls, right? Of course, there were also situations like mother and daughter. Was she afraid that she would not be able to have children in the future? Luocio, who did not know that Miss Ying's thoughts had drifted away, looked around and found that there were Song Ying's bodyguards sitting around, and there were even a few unfamiliar faces. "There seems to be more people here," Luocio said casually. "Ah? What, more what?" Song Ying was stunned. She followed Luocio's gaze and suddenly said, "Oh, there are more people at home. There will be another group of people coming in a few days." Luocio blinked. Song Ying crossed her slender legs under the table and crossed them again. She leaned her hands on the table and leaned forward. "I'm planning to invest here. It's Grandpa's idea. He's been looking for a suitable place since yesterday." Luocio was stunned. "The Song family intends to develop here?" Song Ying nodded. "Yes, this has always been my grandfather's wish. But it hasn't been possible in the past. You should know about the Song family's situation, right?" Luocio nodded. The Song family's influence in South America was not small. On the surface, the Song dynasty group had always been ranked among the top 500 companies in the world. In private, the Song family also had its own armed group. In the words of the Tao, that is, Old Master Song had always had the intention of washing his hands in a golden basin and returning to his roots. However, the Song family's background was too dangerous, so he was rejected. "There's a very good opportunity this time." Song Ying lowered her voice. "I don't know what Song Haoran did to make the government acquiesce to our investment." Boss Luo was silent for a moment. Song Ying probably didn't know, and he didn't know before this, but in just a few seconds, he already knew the cause and effect. Boss Luo would use the paid intelligence ability when it was necessary. He would never be vague in this aspect. This matter started from the beginning of the Mount Tai incident. That is, the Song family, the Zhang family, and the Suzuki Kai of Japan cooperated to secretly explore the Imperial Mausoleum. Let's not talk about the process in the middle for now, but in the end, under Song Haoran's instructions, those Tao demons who were captured by the Heaven's Heart lineage and prepared to be used for the Lord of Mount Tai Prefecture's sacrificial rites were indeed saved because of him. In just one night, more than half of the Tao demons in Kelowna owed him a favor. This was probably the first time in history. After the Mount Tai incident, Song Haoran started to work in the disaster area in the name of international humanitarian relief. As for the Song family's opportunity to get back to China, it was also because of this young Master Song's favor. Therefore, several Tao sects and Tao demons jointly submitted a petition, which forced the administration to face this problem seriously. In the end, after a series of discussions, they finally came to a conclusion. This was also the reason why Song Ying started to look for a new location for the company in this place. If that's the case, why did you choose this place? Boss Luo asked curiously, knowing the cause and effect. Song Ying said, "Do you really not know, or are you pretending not to know? Don't you know why you chose this place?" Luocio smiled. "I think the life in my heart is quite good." Song Ying shrugged. That's what you think, but my grandpa doesn't think so. This time, I called you out mainly to tell you that when the company's affairs are almost settled, you can go to work. Grandpa said that the new company is for you to play with. I'm just your assistant. Luochu shook his head. Thank you for your kindness, but I don't intend to do that. Besides, I'm leaving next month. The school over there is about to start. Song Ying seemed to have expected Luochu's answer. It doesn't matter. You can take the position first and come back to accept it after you finish your studies. Don't worry, when you come back, the new company will be almost on track. It won't be as difficult as you think. Besides, don't you still have me? In fact, Song Ying didn't mention one more thing, that was, the choice to start development in this city was due to the fact that Luochu grew up here, but it was also partly because of the Zhang family. Since the Zhang family withdrew from the stage of the capital several decades ago, they had been using the male side as the stage. The helmsman of the Zhang family, Zhang Lilanfang, also lived in this city. Although the Song family had a strong financial background, it was still a foreign power after all. If it wanted to gain a foothold in the domestic environment, it needed a springboard. And the Zhang family was the springboard and partner that Song Tianyu chose. Firstly, the Song family and the Zhang family had been in business contact for a long time. Secondly, the two families had established a relationship in the chaotic era of the last century. It seems that I can't refuse, Luochu said indifferently. Song Ying said grumpily, only you feel like you've suffered a loss. If it were someone else, wouldn't they be happy? Luochu didn't intend to accept the new company, but he didn't officially refuse. If he refused this time, there would be a next time, unless he took the initiative to erase the relationship between him and the Song family, but he didn't intend to end this relationship for the time being. Let's do as you say. Luochu nodded at last. Good boy. Miss Song Ying smiled sweetly. Come on, sister will buy you something to eat. By the way, which school did you go to? I haven't asked about it before. St. Andrew's University. Song Ying was stunned, then she opened her eyes wide. Wasn't this the school that the vixen of the Zhong family graduated from? Of course, it was also the school that Song Ying used to study in. Is there a problem? Song Ying chuckled and said, I said, it's not my fault. You chose it yourself. No matter what, I'm older than you, but I'm sure you won't be happy to call me younger brother, but you volunteered to be my junior brother, as if she had won some kind of victory. Luochu couldn't help but smile. You can open a company, and you can give me a position, but I hope you won't disturb her life. Renziling? Song Ying was stunned and thought about it. She couldn't help but think of that night, Luochu's terrifying eyes that made her afraid to breathe. He looks gentle, but he still has a very manly side. Sister, come, be careful, watch the stairs. In front of the rehabilitation center, Zhao Lu was supporting Zhao Shaoqin, carefully walking down the stairs. Although it was strenuous, she could still walk with her legs. Zhang Xiaoqin's face was sweaty, but she also had a smile. At the bottom of the stairs, a young man walked past. The young man stopped and looked at the siblings. When Zhao Lu saw him, he was stunned at first, then he said in surprise, Mingming, why are you here? Sister, this is my classmate, Chen Mingming. I'm just passing by to buy some things. Chen Mingming simply said hello. Of course, he couldn't just be passing by. He just happened to pass by at this time. Your sister seems to be recovering well. Chen Mingming looked at Zhang Shaoqin and nodded politely. Although Zhao Li's matter wasn't deliberately made public, after Zhang Xiaoqin's accident, there were some rumors in the school. So, there were many students who knew about Zhao Li's family problems, let alone his classmates. In fact, after Zhang Xiaoqin's accident, Zhao Lu didn't go to school for a week. At that time, the class counselor organized a visit and sent some money, and Chen Mingming was among them. Thank you. Zhang Xiaoqin smiled. Zhao Lu said, I didn't expect to see you again. I saw the class group yesterday, and heard from the counselor that you've finished your withdrawal. I heard you're going abroad soon, right? Have you set the time? The flight is next Wednesday. So soon. Zhao Lu seemed to be regretful. He didn't have many good friends in school. Especially during this period of time, he had to take care of Zhang Xiaoqin, so he didn't have time to socialize. As for Chen Mingming, Zhao Lu felt that he was one of the few people he could get close to. After all, during this period of time, he was not bullied by Dong Xiaofeng several times directly or indirectly because of Chen Mingming. You're Li's classmate. Why don't you come to our house for dinner tonight? Zhang Xiaoqin glanced at him. She knew that Zhao Lu didn't have many friends. It was rare to see a classmate. Judging from the situation, they had a good relationship. So, she took the initiative to invite him. Hearing that, Zhao Lu smiled and said, "Yes, come to my house for dinner tonight. Just treat it as me sending you off. After all, I don't know if I'll have the chance to see you again in the future." Many people were like this. After graduating from high school, they never saw each other again. We seem to only be able to occasionally hear some news about him or her in the chatter of classmates. Maybe we know that he or she is married and has a child, or maybe we know that he or she is living a poor life now. Chen Mingming nodded. In the conference room, Sir Ma was holding a ballpoint pen with his lips and looking at the energy-saving lamp on the ceiling in despair. When there was no major breakthrough in the case, everyone was like this. Zhou Yuxing was also tapping the table with his fingers. As for the other colleagues, they were either looking up information on the internet or looking down at document. "It's a little strange." Suddenly, a female colleague muttered. Ma Haud, who had sharp ears, turned his eyes and asked, "What's strange?" The female colleague said, "I checked Wang Liang and Wu Rong's travel records again. After combining them, I found that they bought train tickets to City X together on November 19th last year." Sir Ma said angrily, "Didn't we already know? They left on the second day after Wu Rong and Wang Liang made a scene. Then, Wang Liang came back a few days later." The female colleague said, "Yes, Wang Liang came back from City X on November 23rd. Then, according to the records, Wu Rong came back on November 25th and left alone on November 29th. And then," the female colleague said, "why didn't they come back from City X together on November 23rd? Maybe Wang Liang had something to do and came back first? What's so strange about that?" Ma Haud shook his head. Suddenly, there was a rush of footsteps. Lin Feng rushed into the conference room with a document in his hand. "Captain Ma, Captain Zhou, the time of death of Wu Rong and Wang Liang has been determined." This immediately caused everyone to perk up. Lin Feng looked at everyone and said seriously, "According to Section Chief Nan's judgment, Wu Rong's time of death should be between November 18th and 22nd last year. Because the body has been frozen for too long, there are some errors, but it should be within these few days. As for Wang Liang's time of death, it is estimated to be between December 1st and 2nd. In other words, Wu Rong was killed before Wang Liang?" Zhou Yuxing frowned, then suddenly looked at the female colleague from before. Sir Ma suddenly quivered. He looked at the female colleague and hurriedly asked, "You just said? When did Wu Rong come back?" "The bus on November 25th. And when did she leave?" "The bus on November 29th. The female colleague opened her mouth. "But, according to the forensic doctor's judgment, Wu Rong should have been killed during this time, right? Based on the timing, could it be that Wang Liang was the culprit? But shouldn't the murderer be the same person?" Ma Haud and Zhou Yuxing had more experience. At this time, the two captains looked at each other. Zhou Yuxing said first, "Old Ma, it seems that our initial investigation direction was wrong." Ma Haud nodded. "These two cases, I'm afraid that they shouldn't be solved together. Our house is small, don't mind." Zhang Xiaoqin supported herself with her walking stick and poured a cup of hot water for Chen Mingming. Then she said, "Sit down first, I'll go to the room to put some things." As for Zhao Lu, he was preparing the ingredients he just bought from the supermarket in the kitchen, preparing to show his skills in the evening. Chen Mingming looked at the old and crowded house, but it was neatly tidied, feeling very comfortable. After that, Zhang Xiaoqin went into the room, probably to change clothes. Chen Mingming stood up and walked around the living room, looking at the furnishings in the house. At this time, the sound of chopping came from the kitchen, which was quite loud. Chen Mingming walked to the door of the kitchen and asked casually, "What are you doing?" "Chopping ribs, preparing to make rib soup." Zhao Lu turned his head back with a kitchen knife stained with bone fragments in his hand. At the same time, there was a slight smile on his face. But his face seemed to have been accidentally stained with the blood of the bones and flesh, so it was a little red. Bang! Chapter 12:16. Wipe it. Chen Mingming took some tissues from the living room. Zhao Lu noticed that his face was stained with blood. He smiled embarrassedly and took the tissues to wipe it. Chen Mingming glanced at the neatly chopped ribs on the chopping board and said casually, "Your knife skills are good. Have you considered becoming a chef?" Zhao Lu laughed and said, "That's all I have. I can cook at home, but if I really want to be a chef in a restaurant, I'm afraid I'll die of laughter." Chen Mingming nodded and casually leaned against the refrigerator door. He chatted like a classmate. "Have you thought about what you want to do in the future?" It was a very normal topic for students to talk about their future. Zhao Lu nodded and looked out of the window. He seemed to have some hope. "Lawyer? I originally majored in law." "To uphold justice?" Chen Mingming asked curiously. Zhao Lu smiled shyly. He picked up the kitchen knife and swept the bones aside. Then, he began to cut the ginger slices. "Do you feel stupid? Lawyers who uphold justice can't make much money, right? Domestic lawyers are very different from foreign lawyers," Chen Mingming said indifferently. "They are also different from the lawyers in Hong Kong movies." Zhao Lu nodded and did not say anything. After cutting the ginger slices, he began to pick the vegetables. "What about you? What do you want to do in the future? Your profiling results are so good. Are you planning to follow in your father's footsteps? We'll talk about it later." Chen Mingming lowered his head and thought about something. When Chen Mingming's parents separated and later divorced, they were very low-key. The students did not know about Chen Mingming's family situation. "That's true. Anyway, there is still a lot of time. Slowly think about it." Zhao Lu nodded. Chen Mingming glanced at the refrigerator behind him and then opened the door. He said coldly, "This refrigerator is old. It's about time to replace it. Otherwise, it will be a security risk." His hand that was picking vegetables suddenly stopped. Then, he continued. Zhao Lu turned his head and smiled. "If it can still be used, then use it first. If it can't be repaired, then fix it. But thank you for your reminder. Do you want to wait outside? You are a guest. There is no reason for you to stand in the kitchen." "It's okay. I'm sitting." Chen Mingming nodded and took a bottle of mineral water from the refrigerator. "I'll drink this." "Okay." Dinner was soon ready, and the siblings and Chen Mingming ate casually. Chen Mingming was a quiet person. Zhang Xiaoqin, on the other hand, was quite cheerful after pulling herself together. They talked about a lot of things. She said that it had been a long time since a guest came to the house, and it had also been a long time since it was lively. After dinner, Chen Mingming brought up the topic of leaving. Zhang Xiaoqin asked Zhao Lu to send him off. She was really a hospitable person. "Your sister is doing well now." Downstairs, Chen Mingming said with some emotion, "I remember the last time the class came to visit, she was quite silent." "That's right. I'm actually prepared for a long struggle." Zhao Lu heaved a sigh of relief. He looked at the night sky and said, "That night, my sister suddenly spoke to me. She even took the initiative to say that she wanted to go to rehabilitation training. I was so happy." Chen Mingming casually asked, "Does your sister know about the dismembered body case?" Zhao Li's smile froze. Then, he nodded. After the incident, 2 police officers came to ask about it. He wasn't surprised that Chen Mingming knew about the relationship between Zhang Xiaoqin and Wang Liang. Firstly, it was because Chen Mingming had come to visit with his classmates and knew about Zhang Xiaoqin. Secondly, Chen Mingming's father was a police officer in the city. It wasn't strange that Chen Mingming, as a family member, knew about such a big case like the dismembered body case. Chen Mingming nodded. With your sister's relationship with Wang Liang, it's only a matter of time before they come looking for you. Zhao Lu nodded. Chen Mingming said, "Don't worry, the murderer will be caught sooner or later. It's just a matter of time. Don't let these things affect your current life." Zhao Lu nodded silently. He said subconsciously, "From what you're saying, the police have some clues?" Chen Mingming said indifferently, "These things won't be revealed casually. Even if you ask me, I don't know." "That's true." Zhao Lu nodded. Chen Mingming said, "But justice has a long arm. No matter how careful the murderer is, there will definitely be flaws left at the scene. It's possible that they haven't been discovered yet. We've read a lot of cases, you should know." Zhao Lu smiled and looked at Chen Mingming. "Let's not talk about this. You're leaving next Wednesday. I probably can't go to the airport to send you off. If you have time, remember to come back and visit. There will be a chance." Chen Mingming smiled. Zhao Lu said curiously, "It's the first time I see you smile. It's really not easy." The girl in the library also said the same. Chen Mingming was stunned. Then, he nodded and left without saying anything. "Have you left?" Zhao Lu went upstairs. As soon as he opened the door, he saw Zhang Xiaoqin tidying up the dining table. He quickly walked up to her and said, "I'll do it. Sis, you go and rest. Go take a shower. You've been tired all day." "All right." Zhang Xiaoqin nodded and smiled. "I'll do it myself." Seeing that Zhang Xiaoqin had walked into the bathroom, Zhao Lu put down the things in his hand and sat down. He suddenly took out his mobile phone and opened it. But his fingers stopped for a moment on the interface as if he was hesitating. The next moment, Zhao Lu gritted his teeth and put down his mobile phone. Time passed by little by little. Zhao Lu looked at the clock on the wall. He suddenly stood up. He walked to the bathroom door and knocked twice. "Fun." Zhang Xiaoqin's voice came from the bathroom. "I'm almost done. Wait for a while." "No, sister. I'm telling you that I'm going out." "Going out? Where can you go out at this time?" "There's no more detergent at home. I'm going to buy some." Zhao Lu said casually, "I'll see if there's anything missing." "Sister, do you still have toothpaste?" "Toothpaste? There's still half a tube." Zhang Xiaoqin said, "Then you go. Be careful." "Okay, sister," Zhao Lu said and slowly sighed. He didn't wear his shoes and socks. Instead, he went to the kitchen and poured out the remaining half a tube of detergent on the cupboard. Then, he took the key and went out. Zhao Lu hurriedly went downstairs and looked around downstairs. Then, he wrapped his clothes and put on his hood. Then, he glanced at a public bicycle parked downstairs and rode away. Under an old tree not far away, a figure came out after Zhao Lu left. Chen Mingming looked at the figure that was about to disappear at the corner of the street, deep in thought. Since it was very likely that these were two different cases, they couldn't just focus on one of them. In the afternoon, the special case team was divided into two groups. One group was led by Ma Haud and rushed to City X as fast as possible. Zhou Yuxing was mainly responsible for Wang Liang's case. Zhou Yuxing hadn't heard from Chen Mingming for half a day. Except at noon, when Chen Mingming finished looking at Wang Liang's workplace and called to report, he didn't contact him again. After lunch, his wife called to say that Wang Liang didn't come home. Zhou Yuxing couldn't help but worry. Just as he was about to call to ask about it, a colleague in the team knocked on the door and walked in. "Captain Zhou, we found something." "Oh." Zhou Yuxing suddenly became energetic and quickly asked, "What did you find?" "We found the last person who saw Wang Liang," the colleague said excitedly. "Well, where is this person now?" The colleague said, "It's a coincidence that this person is in the detention center." At the same time, he said, "It's like this. Because Wang Liang didn't have any relatives in the city, and we didn't even know what he was doing when he was killed, We used the radio and newspapers to release a police report, hoping that someone who could provide us with clues would appear. I didn't expect it to really appear. In the detention center? Who is it? The colleague said, It's a private loan. Captain Joe, you know that these people don't have clean backgrounds. This guy was arrested because when he came to collect debts, he got into a fight with the creditor and injured him. Later, he called the police and was arrested. Private loan. Zhou Yuxing tapped his finger on the table. Wang Liang borrowed money from this guy's company? That's right. The colleague sat down. According to this person's confession, he saw Wang Liang on December 1st, and that time was the time of Wang Liang's death according to Forensic Nan's judgment. I want to interrogate this person personally, Zhou Yuxing said in a deep voice. In the interrogation room, a man in an orange prison uniform with a shaved head and tattoos on his hands was brought in by two uniformed police officers and then pressed on a stool. After confirming the basic information, Zhou Yuxing sized him up and went straight to the point. You said you saw Wang Liang on December 1st? Yes, sir. The man nodded. Zhou Yuxing said, Why are you so sure it was December 1st? The man said, Our company always repaid the loan on the 1st of the following month. This Wang Liang happened to be on the list of people who defaulted, so I went to look for him on that day. That's why I remember it very clearly. Tell me about the situation, Zhou Yuxing said casually. I remember that day. The man began to recall. It was a coincidence that day. I saw Wang Liang on the street, so I caught him in the alley. Brother Long, let's talk nicely, let's talk nicely. In the alley, the man called Brother Long grabbed Wang Liang's hand and pressed his head against the wall. He sneered. Good boy, you're quite good at hiding, aren't you? How dare you hide from my Brother Long's debt? You don't want to stay here anymore, do you? Brother Long, let go of me first. We can talk slowly. I'll definitely pay you back. Don't worry, okay? Brother Long snorted and patted Wang Liang's head. You have money, right? You have money to pay others, but you don't have money to pay me back, right? Of course not. Who told you that? I'll definitely pay you back as soon as I have the money. Don't think I don't know. Brother Long patted him hard again. I don't know who lent you money in this area. Someone told me that you've paid back hundreds of thousands of yuan in the past few days, right? You just don't want to pay me back, right? Don't tell me you're still going to pay me back? Stop hitting, Brother Long. Stop hitting. This guy called Brother Long was quite meticulous. He actually stretched out his hands and simulated the situation at that time. I didn't expect this kid to suddenly get angry. He stepped on me and pushed me to the ground. Brother Long said angrily. I was so angry at that time. When I saw this kid running away, I didn't think too much. I picked up a bottle and threw it at him. I didn't expect it to be so accurate. It directly blew up this kid's head. And then, Zhou Yuxing glared at him angrily. Brother Long shrugged. This bastard didn't stop. I chased him all the way, but he still got away. I was thinking of catching him at his workplace, but I didn't expect to be caught the next day. Ah, sir, do you think this counts as a meritorious deed? Can my sentence be commuted? Zhou Yuxing said expressionlessly. I don't know about that, but according to what you just said, you're suspected of using violence against others. There's enough evidence. Sir, I remembered wrongly. I was just chatting with him. I didn't hit him. I really didn't. Zhou Yuxing shook his head and waved his hand. Take him away. After that, Zhou Yuxing and his colleagues left the interrogation room and started to discuss in the corridor. The lights in the corridor flickered, but it was not stable. This guy called Brother Long shouldn't be lying, Zhou Yuxing said firmly. Yes, but it seems that he wasn't the last person to see Wang Liang. His colleague nodded. Zhou Yuxing suddenly stopped. Go and check. See if Wang Liang really did return a lot of money between November 23rd and December 1st last year, as Brother Long said. Yes. Okay. His colleague nodded. Zhou Yuxing seemed to have thought of something. Wait a minute, you also check Wu Rong's account to see if there was any large amount of money spent. Captain Zhou, you mean? You go and check first. Let me know the results as soon as possible. Zhou Yuxing thought for a while and said, it's best to be detailed. Any spending records and transfer records must be clear. Okay. Zhao Lu rode his bicycle all the way and stopped in front of a supermarket. However, he didn't enter the supermarket. Instead, he called for a motorcycle that was used to solicit customers at night. Not long after, the motorcycle stopped in front of an old street. After Zhao Lu paid in cash, he lowered his head and walked into the old street. He chose a place with fewer people. Not long after, he stopped in front of an old house. He didn't go up. Instead, he hid in a corner downstairs and looked up. Zhao Lu stared for a moment. Hesitation flashed in his eyes. In the end, he gritted his teeth and chose to leave. However, what he didn't expect was that when he turned around, he saw a figure standing under the streetlights. Chen Mingming. Ming, why are you here? Zhao Li's expression froze. Chen Mingming slowly approached under the streetlights. He didn't say anything and just looked into Zhao Li's eyes. This made Zhao Lu subconsciously take a step back. Do you have anything to say to me? Chen Mingming sighed and asked in a low voice. Zhao Lu slowly took a breath and then smiled. What a coincidence. Are you here to take a look too? After hearing what you said tonight, I couldn't help but be curious and wanted to come here to take a look, to see where this scumbag died. Chen Mingming nodded and said indifferently, in that case, let's go up and take a look. After saying that, Chen Mingming walked up the stairs without waiting for Zhao Lu. Chapter 12:17. In front of Wang Liang's rental apartment, Chen Mingming stopped and looked down the stairs. The corridor lights of the old building flickered on and off. Because of the discovery of the corpse, the original residents of the building had moved away in the past few days. Even the slightest sound of footsteps could be heard clearly at this moment. Finally, Zhao Lu appeared in Chen Mingming's sight. He touched the handrail of the stairs and looked up. He walked up step by step expressionlessly. Finally, Zhao Lu walked up the stairs and stood next to Chen Mingming. He began to speak. His face was not as stiff as it was when he went upstairs, as if he was afraid. This isn't good. It's sealed. Chen Mingming did not mind and tore off the seal. He came with Zhou Yuxing once and put a new seal on when he left. Seeing Chen Mingming tear off the seal, Zhao Lu opened his mouth as if he wanted to say something, but he swallowed his words. But then, Chen Mingming took out the key and opened the door of the rental apartment. Zhao Lu could no longer keep calm and said in shock, How did you get the key? Come in. Chen Mingming opened the door and said casually. Then, he pressed the button in front of the door and turned on the lights inside the apartment. When he entered the door, Chen Mingming took off his shoes and put them aside before walking in. Zhao Lu hesitated for a few seconds. He had countless questions in his heart. But thinking that he had followed him here, he took a deep breath and walked in. He did not take off his shoes and just closed the door softly. When Zhao Lu walked into the apartment, he saw Chen Mingming leaning against a freezer in the middle of the living room and looking at him. Zhao Lu was about to speak, but Chen Mingming spoke first. How about we do homework? Homework? Zhao Lu was slightly stunned. Chen Mingming nodded. It's like homework given by a teacher. Let's deduce what happened here at the time of the crime. Zhao Lu said, Mingming, stop playing. Leave this to the police. We're just students, we're nothing. Did you borrow the key from your dad? Or did you steal it? Don't worry, I got the key through proper channels. Chen Mingming said indifferently, there won't be any consequences for trespassing. Let's continue with the homework we were talking about earlier. I don't have time to be crazy with you. Zhao Li's face darkened. I have something to do. I'll leave first. Chen Mingming said, You don't want the police to know that you came here alone at night, right? Not only did you come here, but you also deliberately parked your bicycle in front of the supermarket. You're planning to cycle back from the supermarket when you go back, right? Zhao Lu turned around. After a moment of silence, he frowned and said, You haven't left? Chen Mingming didn't answer. He just continued, This is the first scene where the body was found. The deceased is Wang Liang. His body was buried in this freezer. His body had been cut into pieces by the murderer and was incomplete. So far, there are still several parts of the body that have not been found. It is presumed that they have been taken away, so the cause of death is unknown. Let us deduce, if you were the murderer, what would you choose to commit the crime? I said stop playing. Zhao Lu said angrily. Chen Mingming suddenly walked over to the sofa and lay down. If I were Wang Liang and I were to lie here and fall asleep, what would you do? Enough! Zhao Lu almost roared. Chen Mingming was expressionless. He picked up the phone. Although it seems a bit despicable, I think your sister wouldn't want you to be taken in for questioning. You. Zhao Lu clenched his teeth, then slowly exhaled. Fine, I'll play with you. He walked directly to the sofa and looked at Chen Mingming, who was lying on the sofa. Then, he looked around. Zhao Lu saw a fruit knife on the coffee table. He picked it up abruptly and looked at Chen Mingming with a cold look in his eyes. Do you use a knife? Chen Mingming said indifferently. Zhao Lu said impatiently, How would I know? I'll use whatever is convenient. Isn't this the way to kill someone in anger? Chen Mingming said, The body was cut into pieces. It's not convenient to use this knife. The kitchen has a lot of thick dishes. I said, I didn't kill anyone. Zhao Lu angrily interrupted. This is just a deduction. Chen Mingming sat up and said, Why are you so agitated? Zhao Lu sneered. After being played by you, who wouldn't be agitated? What do you want to do? Do you want to play detective? Or are you kids from police families bored enough to prove yourselves? Do I deserve to be suspected? Just because I'm the victim's family? Chen Mingming said, It's not suitable to use a knife. If you use a knife, there will be blood stains. Whether the blood stains on the sofa, the bed, or the floor, there will be traces left. The police have many ways to find it. I said, I'm not the murderer. Zhao Lu slowly put down his hand, but he didn't put down the knife. Chen Mingming said, Actually, there's one more thing that hasn't been made public. The place where the body was cut into pieces was the bathroom. Zhao Lu subconsciously looked at the bathroom, then frowned. So what? Chen Mingming said slowly. The blood test showed that there were a lot of blood stains on the walls and ceiling of the bathroom. In addition, at the U-shaped pipe of the sewer, there were also some tissue remnants that belonged to Wang Liang. Zhao Lu suddenly said, You're wrong. Why on the sofa in the living room? Why can't it be the bathroom? At that time, Wang Liang was taking a shower. The murderer broke into the house and killed him in the bathroom. Chen Mingming still didn't answer, but said, Killing in anger. You mentioned it just now, right? Why do you think it's killing in anger? Zhao Lu said with hatred, How would I know? You're the one who forced me to do this. I only saw the fruit knife and picked it up casually. If it's not anger, what is it? Chen Mingming shook his head. It's not anger. It should be a planned murder. Do you see that freezer? That's the second freezer in Wang Liang's house. It's used to hide the body. Obviously, the murderer was prepared to hide the body. This has nothing to do with me. Zhao Lu snorted. Chen Mingming pressed on step by step. In fact, the police have found the place where the freezer was sold. And from the owner, they know the characteristics of the person who bought the freezer. Zhao Li's eyes moved slightly. The fruit knife in his hand was shaking slightly at this moment. The police. The police have found the person? Zhao Lu looked at Chen Mingming and seemed to hold his breath. You're nervous. Chen Mingming suddenly said. Who wouldn't be nervous? You brought me here and told me so many things. Zhao Lu took a deep breath. I'm about to go crazy. Chen Mingming looked at Zhao Li's eyes and said, Just now you said, that person? It's strange. Why didn't you call the murderer, but that person? Zhao Lu said indifferently, Don't play this word game with me. That person, murderer, it's just a reference. Chen Mingming suddenly nodded. Looking at Zhao Lu, who was holding the knife, he stood up. Okay. The homework is done. Let's go. Zhao Lu was startled. He had even made some preparations, but he didn't expect Chen Mingming to suddenly give up. This made him feel at a loss. Mingming, you? What are you doing? Didn't I say? I'm just doing homework. Chen Mingming came to the door and took out a shoehorn from the shoe cabinet drawer. He put on his shoes. I'm not a real policeman. Aren't you leaving? I'm going to lock the door. Zhao Li's lips moved, but he finally put down the fruit knife. He kept silent and followed Chen Mingming all the way, until they reached the intersection of the old street. At this time, there was no one around, but some people walking around. Although it wasn't in full view, some people could still notice the slightest movement. Chen Mingming looked at the time, 37 minutes. I'm afraid you'll have to pedal faster when you go back. Zhao Lu couldn't figure out Chen Mingming's thoughts. He said hesitantly, Tonight. Chen Mingming waved his hand and said, You've actually been to the scene, right? Zhao Li's breathing was obviously faster. Chen Mingming slowly stepped back and said, When I said the murderer dismembered the body in the bathroom, you subconsciously looked over. Of course, you can say you noticed it when you came in. But I think some sudden reactions are uncontrollable, right? Anyway, no matter what I say tonight, I don't have any evidence. This is just my speculation. Who knows? Zhao Lu opened his mouth. Chen Mingming turned around and walked to the dark place, finally saying, I'll leave in a few days. I hope I can listen to your story before I leave. Zhao Lu didn't say anything, but turned around and left quickly and ran away. As Chen Mingming walked along the old streets, he suddenly stopped in his tracks. He turned around and raised his head, seeing two dim foreign lamps and an old pine door. Chen Mingming thought for a while, then pushed the door and walked in. In this spacious lobby, Chen Mingming saw the boss sitting in front of the bar counter with his back to him. A low sound came from the record player in the corner. Chen Mingming walked in front of the boss, looking around, and asked curiously, Where's your servant girl? Boss Luo said casually, She's busy with something. Saying this, Boss Luo walked to the bar counter, his fingers sweeping over the cabinet. Sit down, what do you want to drink? Chen Mingming sat down, but didn't say what he wanted. He just asked, Did I come here by myself, or did you ask me to? Luoqiu smiled. Those who want to come will naturally come. This place won't refuse. Chen Mingming was silent for a moment, then said in a low voice, Thank you for giving me this identity. You're welcome. Luoqiu said softly, It's just for the convenience of the test. Since it's a test, naturally there are correct answers and methods. I just designed the questions, not unsolvable ones. Chen Mingming raised his head, looking straight at the boss. Zhao Lu may not be the murderer? Luoqiu smiled slightly. Chen Mingming said again, But he may know who the murderer is. Otherwise, you wouldn't give me such a hint on the parchment. But this kind of hint can easily lead to my subconscious to make a wrong judgment. So this hint is to confuse the information, right? Luoqiu said, If the test is not difficult, naturally it will lose its original meaning. In fact, you're making good progress. Chen Mingming frowned subconsciously. He didn't think that there was anything special about this kind of progress under the premise of the hint. He felt that the boss was referring to something else. There were two questions in this test. The first one was to help his father solve the case, and the second one was progress. Was it referring to the second question? Chen Mingming sighed slowly and suddenly smiled bitterly. Sure enough, it's two completely unequal amounts of information. In the face of such a huge gap in information, I can only feel a deep sense of powerlessness when facing you. Luoqiu didn't deny. Indeed, I'm not necessarily smarter than anyone. Chen Mingming said, This is probably the charm of information. Putting this information aside, if you and I were at the same level of information, how would you judge this case? Luochu began to mix the wine, using the red dust mixing technique he learned from Miss Maid. The invigilator won't end well. Chen Mingming's eyes suddenly brightened. This test doesn't seem to restrict my ability to buy information. I can choose to buy information directly to help me complete the test, right? Luochu smiled. Are you planning to buy information? Chen Mingming shook his head. You didn't say that cheating is not allowed, but you also didn't say that cheating is allowed. It's reasonable for the invigilator to expel the cheating person from the test room. The mixing of red dust was almost completed. Boss Luo seemed to be in a good mood. He looked at the final product, slowly pouring it into the glass, and appeared to be very focused. Chen Mingming suddenly asked, "The question, is it really that simple to solve the case?" Luochu said, "What do you think?" Chen Mingming shook his head, looked at the glass in front of him, sighed and stood up. "I'm not drinking. Thank you for your hospitality." "You're welcome." Chen Mingming turned and left, frowning at the same time. "Is there a guest?" Miss Maid's voice came from the stairs. "Chen Mingming? You've been busy." Luochu waved his hand. Miss Maid took a step forward and appeared in front of the bar counter. It seems that he encountered something he was puzzled about? Luochu didn't hide it, smiled and said, "He asked me what was the meaning behind the test questions." Miss Maid also smiled. "How did Master answer him?" Luochu shook his head. "I suddenly had a bad taste, so I didn't say anything." Yu Yi said, "Solving a case is to find the truth, and finding the truth means that it will affect a person's fate and life. It's equivalent to controlling someone's life. Whether it's good or bad, it all depends on one's own will. Controlling Life is a compulsory course for Black Soul Envoys. Chapter 12:18. Time Rain. Monday morning, the sky was gloomy. Although it was already spring, the cold in the south was equivalent to a tribute damage. Even if one wore thick socks, they could still feel the coldness and discomfort from the soles of their feet. Although the administration's Rising Sun and Yanggang combination didn't need to sleep in the open, they had a surveillance mission, so naturally, they couldn't be too far away from the target. On the rooftop of the building opposite Zhao Lejia's house, Bu Gao was curled up next to Wang Hu. After a night of guarding, he was already exhausted. He wrapped his clothes tightly and leaned against Wang Hu's back. After touching this silly big guy's body, he could feel a warm current. He really couldn't take it anymore. "Wang Hu, I'm going to take a nap. Wake me up if anything happens." "Okay." After Wang Hu responded simply, he raised his head and looked at the gloomy sky. He reached out his hand and tiny raindrops fell on his palm. The raindrops faintly carried a sense of joy, and there seemed to be a slight tremor in the air. Wang Hu frowned and stood up in the next second. His cloudy eyes suddenly became bright. Bu Gao, who had just closed his eyes, suddenly lost his back. He subconsciously opened his eyes and saw Wang Hu slightly bent his knees at this time, then jumped and rushed to the sky. "Wang Hu? Where are you going?" Bu Gao suddenly woke up completely, but he saw Wang Hu's figure gradually becoming smaller in the air. Whoosh! The pet hospital was only 3 stories high and could be said to be the shortest building around. A figure slowly fell at this time and landed on the roof of the pet hospital. After Long Shirua landed, she stretched out her hand to cover her mouth and yawned. She wandered around Kelowna in a very short time and set up a seal to seal the spiritual energy. It could be said that she was quite tired. Of course, the tiredness here was mental tiredness. In theory, Kelowna Shinryu had infinite physical strength. "Let's take a shower first and then sleep." Long Shirua covered her shoulder. After rotating her arms a few times, she whispered in a low voice. The light rainwater had long soaked her hair. It was wet and she seemed to be a little uncomfortable. But as soon as Long Shirua took a step forward, she seemed to feel something and looked up in confusion. She saw a figure in the sky was diving toward the rooftop of the pet hospital. Long Shirua frowned. At the same time, the figure was already standing on the rooftop. The moment he landed on the ground, he held back his strength so as not to cause the building to tremble slightly. The newcomer's control of strength could be said to be well practiced. Long Shirua saw the newcomer's face clearly, and her small mouth could not help but open slightly. Even though a stroke had been cut off, the burly figure and the aura of one of the 4 heavenly spirit clans were very obvious. Huang Bai Talisman? Kelowna Shinryu was stunned for a moment, then remembered the information about this guy. It was said that in the middle of the Mount Tai incident, Huang Baifu, Baijie, and the others were lost in the Penglai treasure vault. Later, everyone escaped, but Huang Baifu was still missing. Until the Mount Tai incident temporarily came to an end, Huang Baifu still did not return to the White Tiger clan. Now, the White Tiger clan seemed to be in chaos. In the beginning, Huang Baifu was not the designated successor of the White Tiger clan. He was only a half-demon born of the previous White Tiger and a human woman. Of course, not many people knew about this. Even in the administration, only a limited number of high-ranking people knew about this secret. When Huang Baifu was young, he was not like the previous White Tiger seemed to be too lazy to even take care of him. He only saw Huang Baifu as a byproduct of his own selfish desires. Huang Baifu's mother was a human. After giving birth to Huang Baifu, she could not accept the humiliation and directly committed suicide by hanging herself. Since then, Huang Baifu disappeared from the White Tiger clan's secret territory. Dozens of years ago, Huang Baifu suddenly appeared from the forest and consecutively challenged a few young talents of the White Tiger clan. In the end, on the day of the clan's big day, he directly killed the previous White Tiger. Now, the previous White Tiger's corpse was still hanging on a mountain peak in the White Tiger's secret territory, and this mountain peak was the burial place of Huang Baifu's birth mother. Since then, Huang Baifu used absolute violence to suppress the entire White Tiger clan. Not only that, but he even used a very short period of time to sweep through the other 3-4 heavenly spirit clans. For a time, he was known as the strongest White Tiger in history. Although Huang Baifu's reputation was not very good, his martial prowess made the 4 heavenly spirit clans say that he was a mutant that could rival Kelowna Shinryu. Of course, this was just a method of flattery. Back then, Huang Baifu was not so arrogant as to think that he could defeat Kelowna Shinryu and excitedly run over to challenge him. Long Shirua was naturally not interested in purposely running over to fight Huang Baifu in order to prove himself. Kelowna Shinryu and Huang Baifu's meeting was very limited. They had only greeted each other during the past few Penglai conferences. That was it. After the Mount Tai incident, Huang Baifu had yet to appear. The White Tiger clan was without a leader. The previous White Tiger's direct descendant, Huang Baifu's half-brother, had now stood up in the name of the orthodox White Tiger. Currently, he was doing his best to gather Huang Baifu's forces. Huang Baifu's matters flashed through Long Shirua's mind. She tilted her head and looked at Huang Baifu in front of her. Looking at his broken arm, this wound had clearly healed and was not a new injury. When they were in the Penglai treasury, Long Shirua and Huang Baifu were actually very close to each other. Unfortunately, until she left, they had never really met. Could this arm have been broken in the Penglai treasury? However, when she thought of the terrifying mass-produced Gaia in the Penglai treasury, Long Shirua's scalp tingled a little. Although she could only use Chi-Chi Kamaya's God Pearl to activate part of Kelowna Shinryu's power, at the same time, she did not receive endless power support from the earth. However, no matter what, Long Shirua also held half of the Xianyuan killing sword at that time. However, she could not gain the upper hand in the hands of Gaia, who claimed to be the treasury manager. She even fell into a desperate situation. Later, if it were not for when she thought of what happened later, Long Shirua felt a burst of irritation. How could she think of everything? Damn it! When did you come out? Long Shirua looked at Huang Baifu and took 2 steps forward. Why didn't you go back to your nest? Why did you come to me? I heard that your brother is now expanding. Listening to Long Shirua's puzzled words, Huang Baifu. Wang Hu's eyes flashed with a trace of confusion. Long Shirua frowned. She felt that the current Huang Baifu was different from her impression of him. It seemed that he had become a retard? You know me? Wang Hu was silent for a moment before he slowly said a sentence. Long Shirua blinked. There were not many people in this world who could lie in front of Kelowna Shinryu. In an instant, Long Shirua thought of a possibility and then said in disbelief, "You didn't lose your memory, did you?" "I did forget the past." Wang Hu did not hide it. With his current personality, he basically said what he wanted to say. Long Shirua was stunned and then said, "Then why did you want to come to me?" Since he was sick, he naturally had to be treated. It was normal for the demon race of the demon realm to come to her for treatment. However, Huang Baifu had lost his memory. Why did he want to come to her? Wang Hu said slowly, "I felt a very strong qi. Then my body moved and came all the way here. You are very strong. My intuition told me that I might not be able to win against you. However, I still want to try." Even if he had lost his memory, his instinct to fight still affected his actions. Long Shirua shook her head and waved her hand. "Forget about fighting. I am not in the mood recently. Besides, I am afraid that you will be traumatized. Come with me. I will show you how you lost your memory." Wang Hu moved. Without any warning, he flew over and kicked. Long Shirua was furious. She stretched out her hand and grabbed. "Damn it, what are you doing here? Do you want to destroy my hospital?" This kick did not land. Wang Hu's body was directly pinched in midair by an invisible thug. Wang Hu struggled a few times but could not break free. At this time, his forehead was full of green veins. There seemed to be an even more scorching power in his body that woke up from a deep sleep. It actually slightly pushed away this invisible big hand. Long Shirua frowned and snorted. "If you transform into a white tiger here, I will dare to pull out your tiger penis and soak it in wine." Seal. The immense power of the true dragon gathered from all directions at this moment. In an instant, the blazing power in Wang Hu's body was directly defeated. This power instantly cooled down and once again fell into a deep slumber in Wang Hu's body. Long Shirua snorted and released her palm. Wang Hu, who was in the air, fell to the ground with a pale face. "I really can't beat you." Wang Hu stood up slowly, then turned and left. The true dragon of the divine land was dumbfounded. "So this guy came all the way here just for a fight?" "No, this guy has lost his memory now." "Wait!" Long Shirua shouted directly. Long Shirua sighed and said, "I am a little worried about you now. Let me see if you can." Before she finished speaking, she saw a figure quickly flip over the wall of the pet hospital's rooftop and rush up. "Wang Hu, why are you running? I am so tired." Bu Gao was panting heavily at this time and ran to Wang Hu's side in a few steps. He was still holding a stick in his hand. This stick was connected to a thin steel cable. At the end of the steel cable was a steel claw. The steel claw was still hanging on the fence. "Wang Hu?" Long Shirua couldn't help but frown again. Bu Gao then noticed that there was another beautiful woman here. He subconsciously asked, "You are?" I am very sorry. I am very sorry." In Long Shirua's office, Bu Gao was sweating profusely. If it wasn't because he didn't want to be too rude, he even had the intention to kneel on the ground and cry. He knew that Wang Hu liked to find monsters with some strength to spar with, but he didn't expect this big fool to find Kelowna Shinryu's house. She was one of the top advisors of the agency. Although she didn't care about anything, if she didn't like someone, she could just say something and that person would have no future in the agency. "You said that he is called Wang Hu, a Huanan tiger demon. He is your support logistics partner?" Yes, Lord Long. This is Wang Hu's ID." Looking at the ID that Bu Gao handed over with both hands, Long Shirua couldn't help but feel a little strange. This ID was real, not fake. Then there was the problem. Although Huang Baifu didn't have much activity in human society, he was dangerous. It would be strange if the agency didn't have a file on Huang Baifu. How did this guy pass the inspection? Were the personnel who checked the ID all idiots? No, the HR department. Long Shirua began to rummage through her drawer in the next second. Finally, she found a thick stack of documents at the bottom of the drawer. Flipping open the documents, Long Shirua suddenly narrowed her eyes. She saw the name written on the documents. Deputy Director of the HR Department, Huang Mutian. And this Huang Mutian, others might not know, but Long Shirua was very clear about his identity. Huang Mutian was the uncle of Huang Baifu's half-brother. As expected, Long Shirua suddenly sneered. Did they want to cover up Huang Baifu's memory loss, so that Huang Baifu's brother could seize power? This was really bad. The monster race had learned how to fight for power and profit like humans. But did the strongest white tiger become a member of the agency? Was it heaven's will, or was it unintentional? Looking at the Wang Hu was standing beside Bubugao like a piece of wood, Long Shirua narrowed her eyes. This matter, I'll treat it as if it never happened. Long Shirua put down the documents at this time and said indifferently, since this support of yours is new and doesn't know anything, I can't hold on to it. Lord Long, please forgive me. Bubugao was suddenly overjoyed. Seeing that this guy seemed to have a lot of flattery to say, Long Shirua waved her hand in time. Okay, if there's nothing else, you can leave. I don't like to be disturbed. Bubugao said, understood. But, Lord Long, I have one more thing to ask. What is it? Bubugao glanced at Wang Hu, then scratched his head and said, my brother seems to have lost his memory. Lord Long, can you see if you can treat him? Long Shirua was stunned. She could see through people's hearts. From Bubugao's appearance to him talking about his encounter with Wang Hu, she could roughly guess Bubugao's thoughts at that time. Long Shirua pondered and said, since Wang Hu has lost his memory, his character is like a blank piece of paper. You can also monitor him. Once he recovers his memory, maybe he will leave you. Don't you care? This, Bubugao hesitated for a moment, then shook his head. It's a pity, but how do I put it? Let's put it this way, I also have a mother and a father. If I forget my parents one day, that's too pitiful. Similarly, if Wang Hu forgets these, isn't it also very pitiful? Whether he's a demon or not, these memories, he has the right to have them, right? Listening to Bubugao's words, Long Shirua couldn't help but look at Bubugao again. Would he sympathize with a demon agent from the agency? At the same time, Wang Hu also subconsciously looked at Bubugao. Boo, it's okay, it's okay. Bubugao was rather cheerful. He smiled and said, if you can recover your memory, I believe you won't forget me. By then, you won't be so stupid, then it'll be much more convenient for us to go on missions. We're a team. I won't forget you. Wang Hu nodded, still in that short and concise style. Definitely. Long Shirua looked and looked, then the corners of her mouth curled up slightly. Chapter 12:19. In the human realm, amnesia is a very troublesome disease, and there is no way to cure it, let alone the demon race who has a completely different life structure. If he was seriously injured and dying, I might be able to save him, but I can't do anything about amnesia. So it's like that. Bubugao couldn't help but feel disappointed. Wang Hu, on the other hand, seemed to be indifferent and didn't care at all. Long Shirua said indifferently, but this kind of disease is actually not much different from humans. It's nothing more than hiding in a place that can evoke his memories and talking about the past. Maybe he just needs an opportunity to remember everything. Since even Kelowna Shinryu said that she couldn't do anything, what else could Bubugao say? But if he told Wang Hu to talk about the past and go to a place that could evoke his memories, who knew where to go? Alright, keep him in check. Long Shirua said again, after all, there is a difference between humans and demons, and the agency has to deal with these relationships well. After all, as one of the top advisors. Well, in front of newbies, Kelowna Shinryu didn't hesitate to show her glorious side in front of them. Bubugao has learned. TSK, the strongest white tiger, has become the agency's lowest-level support staff. Looking at the two figures outside the window, Long Shirua suddenly had a mischievous smile on her face. Bubugao and Huang Baifu. Huang, whose combination was probably something that the entire Kelowna transcendent Tao and demon realm couldn't think of. What kind of chemical reaction would such a combination lead to in the end? Long Shirua secretly thought about some things. After unexpectedly meeting Huang Baifu, who had amnesia, she suddenly felt that the gloominess was swept away, and the mental fatigue of the past few days seemed to be relieved a lot. I wonder what Pianxian is doing. Long Shirua subconsciously thought that it had been almost an hour since she came back, and this was the first time that this little guy didn't react at all. But she could feel that this little butterfly demon was clearly in her room. Pianxian, I'm back. What are you doing in the room? As usual, Long Shirua directly pushed open the door and entered. The Long Shirua didn't know how many times she had scolded the little butterfly for not locking the door. The moment she opened the door, Long Shirua saw a pile of books on the table. She couldn't help but have a headache. It seemed that this butterfly had the heart of a top student. Agile? Glancing over the desk, Long Shirua finally found Luo Dance curled up in the corner between the desk and the bed. She had a bad feeling. What happened? Long Shirua walked quickly to Luo Dance's side and squatted down to check. At this time, the little butterfly demon's face was slightly red, and her body temperature was higher than usual. The colorful wings behind her back were completely exposed, but they were folded and slightly trembling. The little butterfly demon's eyes were sometimes confused and sometimes high, and two curled antennae appeared on her forehead. She seemed to be unable to maintain her human shape. What the hell happened? Sister Long. Is that you? Luo Dance raised her head. Her watery eyes were still misty and hazy. I don't know. I just feel that my body is so strange, so hot, like holding something. Am I sick? Long Shirua gave a start, and couldn't help thinking of a possibility. She immediately stretched out her hand and pressed the little butterfly's forehead, asking, Do you feel that your heart is beating faster and your body is becoming more sensitive? You feel weak with a light touch, right? Sister Long, how do you know? Of course I know. Long Shirua said angrily. It's obviously mating season. Don't worry, you're not sick, just in estrus. In estrus. The ruddy face of the little butterfly demon seemed to become redder. Obviously, even if one understood it literally, they could understand the meaning of estrus. The little butterfly demon became anxious. Her mother died in the hands of a praying mantis monster when she was a child. She was raised by a grandpa tree monster. Of course, Grandpa Tree Monster couldn't bring himself to discuss this with Luo Dance. She really didn't know what to do now. Don't worry, it's not a big deal. Long Shira waved her hand. Drink more cold things. When you feel that your imagination will run wild, go to cold water. If the effect is not good enough, go to the basement and get some dry ice. Don't go out unless necessary, especially don't meet any male creatures. You'll be fine in a few days. Luo Dance was obviously very obedient to Kelowna Shinryu's words. Sister Long, you're so good, you even know this. Yes, after all well, I'll get some dry ice for you. Long Shirua cleared her throat and went out with a calm face. That was close, she almost spilled the beans. The murderer is suspected to be a person with abnormal mysophobia. Why did he kill? At the elevator on the first floor of the building, Ren Xiling, who was waiting for the elevator, began to think crazily while reading the information she got from Nan Xiaonan. Although she had promised Luochio that she wouldn't rush into the murder scene, she couldn't restrain her instinct when facing such a big case. While thinking, Ren Xiling lowered her head and walked into the elevator. After pressing the button for the floor where the magazine office was located, she began to bite her ballpoint pen and entered the reasoning state again, but her reasoning ability had always been terrible. Ding! When the elevator door opened, Rensselaer still looked down at the notebook and walked into the office of the magazine. Unexpectedly, the moment she pushed the door open, she suddenly heard a crackling sound. "Congratulations, Sister Wren," everyone said in unison. Old Wren was really shocked at this moment. She saw ribbons flying in front of her, and colorful shredded paper and gold powder were gushing out. The whole magazine stood in front of her at the same time, holding congratulatory props in their hands. What happened? At this time, Lizzie walked to Rensselaer with a smile, holding her hand and saying, "Sister Wren, congratulations on being the chief editor." Rensselaer rolled her eyes. "Do you have nothing better to do? Do you have nothing to do but to make fun of me?" Chief editor, she had always been the deputy chief editor. No. Lizzie shook her head and said, "This chief editor is the real chief editor, not your deputy chief editor." "What?" Rensselaer was stunned. Another male colleague laughed at this time. "It's true. The big boss called today. From today on, you are the chief editor, and the former chief editor will be demoted to the deputy chief editor." Rensselaer blinked and subconsciously looked at the chief editor's office. She saw a thin middle-aged man with glasses holding a paper suitcase, walking to the deputy chief editor's office with a gloomy face. "What's the situation? This is the big boss's idea." Lizzie shrugged. "Here, this is your promotion document." Rensselaer looked at it, and suddenly her face became strange. "It's really—" Nanny Wren, who was in a daze, came to the chief editor's office in a daze under the crowd's celebration. Needless to say, someone had already moved the things in her office over. Looking at the high imitation world-famous painting that her son sent back from abroad hanging on the wall, Nanny Wren rubbed her chin, then picked up the phone and called the big boss of the magazine. The big boss was also a wonderful person. When he founded the magazine, he didn't make much money. Then he began to invest in the stock market under the instigation of his friends. He might have been a leak, but he didn't expect to grow into a leak. After several financial crises, he foolishly became an airdrop. From then on, he went out of control and went to the peak of life. This big boss, who didn't even know how much wealth he had, simply became a hands-off shopkeeper and took his sister to travel around the world. Nanny Wren had been working for so long, but she had only seen this loyal Victory Group player once at the company's annual meeting. "You are? Big boss. I'm Rensselaer." "Rensselaer? Oh, Rensselaer. How is it, have you received the promotion document?" "I have received it, but why is it so sudden?" Nanny Wren listened to the big boss's tone and felt something was wrong. It seemed that he didn't have much impression of her. Then why was she promoted? "It's like this. The previous editor-in-chief was too conservative. I feel that it is not suitable for the style of our magazine." The big boss said at this time, "As for you, I have read a few of your articles, and they are to my liking. I want to make the style of our magazine more youthful, so I think you should be able to do it. How about it? Don't you accept it?" "This is not." Rensselaer's eyes were a little fluttering. She probably didn't expect that such a good thing would actually fall on her head. "Oh, in terms of salary, according to the previous editor-in-chief's level, it will be increased by 50%. The big boss said with a smile at this time, "I will give you 1 month of paid annual leave every year. In addition, I will give you the right to use external funds. You can decide on the funds within 100,000 yuan. You don't have to go through me." Listening to this big boss talking about the benefits he gave her, Nanny Wren suddenly had a strange feeling. She even had a feeling that this big boss had taken a fancy to her and was planning to sleep with her. "Until, do your work well. Don't call me if you have nothing to do. I am still in the Aegean Sea. I am going to Spain next. I don't plan to come back this year. The company will be handed over to you." Ha 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 ha. Beep. I'm not dreaming, am I? On a private yacht in the Aegean Sea, a man in his 30s was holding a phone. He was wearing a checkered short-sleeved shirt and a pair of sunglasses. And his teeth seemed to glow when he smiled. "Hello. Miss Song, I have done as you said." "Yes, I understand. After all, you paid such a high price to buy my magazine. But I don't understand why Miss Song is still willing to let me be the big boss. The company is already yours. Well, after all, the price is here. Of course, I don't care. Don't worry, I won't reveal your identity. It is written in the contract, Zhang family's mansion." "I didn't disturb her life, did I?" Song Ying put down the phone casually. She made such an arrangement not only because of Luo Chio's request, but also because of the Song family. What a joke! She was the wife of the Song family's direct descendant. Even if she got married, how could she be bullied at work outside? Also, it was a small compensation. After all, Song Ying once deceived Luochio and went to his home. Recalling that Ren Xiling's first reaction when she found out that she had lied to her was not anger, but the way she pounded her chest on the sofa as if she had suffered a heavy blow, Song Ying subconsciously smiled, thinking that this aunt was really a wonderful person. "The relationship between the two is really good," Song Ying murmured. After recalling Luochio's horrible eyes that night, she didn't know why she felt irritated. She held her chin and looked at the wall clock, gradually becoming absent-minded. At this time, the door was knocked. Zhang Qingrui came in with a smile. "Did I disturb you?" "Yes, I did," Song Ying said casually. "It's fine if I'm borrowing your place, but I'm also borrowing your place to work. But don't worry, I've found a new office. It's ready-made and can be used without much renovation. Once I'm done with the preparations, I'll move out. Actually, it's not a problem to live here." Zhang Qingrui smiled. "It's just me and Grandma at home, so it's usually quiet. It'll be livelier with more people. Don't worry, I'll come here often to eat." Song Ying smiled. "After all, it's a formal cooperation between our families. I'm going to show off my skills here." Zhang Qingrui walked to the table and sat down, saying casually, "I heard from Grandma that old Master Song's investment this time is to let your Song family's girl practice?" "My Song family's girl?" "Luochio can just say it," Song Ying said grumpily. "Grandpa does have such a plan, but it depends on the person. If she's really not suitable, he won't force her to stay." Zhang Qingrui said enviously, "Your Song family's education method is really special." "Your family's is special," Song Ying sighed. "Even my grandpa said you're a rare classic beauty. He seldom praises others." Zhang Qingrui covered her smile. "Well, let's stop flattering each other. Next, please take care of the cooperation." She reached out her hand. Song Ying understood and reached out to shake her hand gently. Chapter 12:20. There was a class on Monday morning, and it was the first class. Because of the rain, the lights in the classroom were turned on. Although it was not as gloomy and cold as outside, the drowsy voice of the old professor made the classroom feel dull. He wondered what his sister was doing at home. Because of the rain, Zhang Shaoqin chose to rest at home today. Continuous exercise also required rest. Only by combining work and rest could she recover better. In the classroom, Zhao Lu was thinking about his sister. He suddenly felt a limitation for humans. The problem of perspective. Being unable to know what the people he cared about were experiencing at the same time in different scenes always made people feel a little uneasy. Unfortunately, it often happened at this time. Yes, the world was turning every minute. Those who were related to him, or those who didn't want to be related to him, were all turning around. Where would their eyes land? Maybe when they were watching the same TV series. In this way, the hidden uneasiness in his heart would be reduced to the minimum. Because he could see the plot, because he didn't need to be limited to the perspective of a certain character. Because it was the perspective of God. And also because there wouldn't be anything that was beyond his ability. Unconsciously, Zhao Li's soul had wandered, thinking of many things that were out of the ordinary. The dreary classroom on a rainy day seemed to be the best hotbed for imagination. You have been here before. Chen Mingming's words suddenly appeared in Zhao Li's mind, pulling his scattered thoughts back to the silent classroom in an instant. He suddenly broke out in a cold sweat, looking around subconsciously. He didn't see Chen Mingming's figure. He wouldn't come to school again. Zhao Lu raised his textbook and looked down at his mobile phone. In the social media app, there was a special person's account saved. A blank profile picture. That person said that unless something special happened, it was best not to have more contact, let alone try to meet. If he wanted to maintain his own life, he should pretend that nothing had happened. Zhao Lu had always followed this principle. In the past few months, he didn't try to contact that person. The only time was when he inexplicably received a silver message. And that person only replied with one word: no. Zhao Lu even instinctively didn't believe the other party's answer. His life had always been extremely peaceful, living according to the rules. Only this person, at a specific time, had a specific intersection with him. Because this person was the only one who knew about the other side of him. In the end, he was unable to remain calm after his conversation with Chen Mingming last night. Once again, he broke his promise with Chen Mingming. I heard that the police have found a place that sells freezers, so it's very likely that they have already gotten hold of some clues. These were the words that Zhao Lu typed out, but he did not send them out. He was silent for a moment before he quickly deleted them and typed out another line of words. In fact, Zhao Lu regretted asking about the silver pistol the last time. He didn't know if such words would leave any traces on the internet. So this time, he became even more careful. How have you been? After waiting for a while, Zhao Lu finally got a response. The response stunned Zhao Lu. Who are you? Seeing such an answer, Zhao Lu was a little surprised for a moment. But on second thought, the other party was probably more careful than him. Perhaps the other party was even being monitored? Who are you? It seemed to be just a question, but it was very likely a signal from the other party. Don't try to contact me? Zhao Lu pondered for a moment, opened the spam messages on his mobile phone, copied one of them, and sent it out. Successfully predicted Tiger on Saturday 3/3, Diliu Kai /PK level 10 plan plus little sister V letter. 341325512. After waiting for a while, there was still no response from the other party. When Zhao Lu copied the same content and sent it again, it showed that the sender was received. You did not add the other party as a friend. Could it be that the other party was really in a dangerous situation? Instantly, Zhao Lu had a feeling of uneasiness. Because of his perspective, he couldn't see everyone related to him. He couldn't help but worry. You have been to the crime scene. In Zhao Li's mind, the words that Chen Mingming said while standing under the street lamp, like a ghost, rang again. Would he tell others about what happened last night? His father must be investigating this case. What should I do? Zhao Li's mind was full of all kinds of thoughts. In this cold weather, sweat faintly appeared on his forehead. The bell rang, and the lecturer and the students left one after another, but Zhao Lu still didn't notice. It wasn't until the classroom administrator came and was about to lock the door and patted Zhao Li's shoulder that he woke up from his dream, and his face was even a little pale. Student, are you okay? No. No, I was thinking about something. Sorry, I'm leaving. Zhao Lu hurriedly packed his things and left the classroom. Really? Do I look like I'm joking? Luoqiu rarely received a call from Ren Xiling in the morning. He received it this morning. He only heard Chief Editor Ren chattering on the other side of the phone. She didn't sound like a person reporting good news at all. Instead, she was shouting like a guest who participated in a prank show and was pranked. It was probably Song Ying's doing behind the scenes, Luoqiu thought. According to Ren Xiling's work style, it was probably a blessing from God to keep her current position, let alone be promoted. Connecting this to the fact that the Song family recently began to inject funds into the local area, Luocio easily figured out the connection between them. This kind of thing was naturally not worth buying information about. Besides, just promoting Renziling so that she could do what she wanted to do to the maximum extent didn't exceed Luocio's limit. On the contrary, this not only didn't disturb her life, but also allowed her to better enjoy her own life. She really put in a lot of effort. Luocio smiled slightly. Stinking brat, are you listening to me? I said I was promoted. Congratulations. That's it? What do you want to eat tonight? Eat. What do you want to do? Of course, eat at a restaurant. Come on, call Yu Yi. I'll take you to eat something good tonight. So it's decided then. It was indeed decided, because the phone was hung up instantly. Luocio shook his head and put down the phone. Then, like turning off the TV, he turned off the holographic screen in front of him. The last scene was the scene in the conference room where the police officers were discussing the case. Boss Luo went up to the second floor and came to the room that served as the server room of the Master God project. Miss Maid, who always had a habit of changing her clothes, was now wearing a gray-black suit with a white floral blouse inside. Her stockings, which were as thin as cicadas' wings, wrapped around her perfect calves, which were now placed together and slanted. Her golden hair was tied up, and the lens of the rimless glasses she wore constantly reflected the floating images on the screen, while her 10 fingers were rapidly typing on the keyboard. Just like how she often wore the white robe of a female researcher when she entered the laboratory. How's the progress? Luocio came to the servant girl's side and casually sat on the edge of the table, asking with a smile. The robot beside him stood up, but the boss waved his hand and sat down again. Still designing the map of the new world, about 1/10 done. Yu Yi pushed the edge of the glasses. Don't worry. Luocio turned the screen and looked at the design on it, showing a look of admiration. This was really designing a complete world terrain, and many of them were fantasy style. The next Master God project would be a real upgrade, no longer relying on a single game, but a completely independent real world with the world fragment as the core. Everything in it would not be just a pile of data anymore. The boss suddenly had an idea, so he said, I don't want to use the program to make these NPCs in the new game world. Yu Yi said, Master, do you want to let the guests be reincarnated as plot NPCs? Boss Luo said, No, the development of plot NPCs is very limited, and it is limited to a certain place, a certain map. I want to use fake souls. Fake souls? Luocio nodded and said, Anyway, the world fragment is a self-evolving world after intercepting a certain period of history. When I bought this world fragment, it was intercepted in the middle and late period of the 100 Years' War between England and France, and it has already brought all the characters of this era. Instead of arranging these characters into the plot, it is better to select some of them as single plot NPCs. I also want to see if these fake souls have successfully upgraded into real souls. Well, Yu Yi pondered for a while and came up with an idea. It's too weird to suddenly change the main theme of the game world. Why don't we put the players who broke through the first district of the Demon King Castle and entered the second district here? The second district will change into a new plot. That is also possible. Luocio nodded. He suddenly remembered a cartoon he watched when he was young. The main character in it was driving the dragon fighter, fighting the Tsang Chuangjie mountain layer by layer, and each layer of the Tsang Chuangjie mountain was a small world that was different from the background. Well, we can add more areas in the future. Yu Yi then proposed a supplementary plan. In this way, whether it is Master who wants to experience a different style of world, or the game world itself, it will also increase the playability of the game world. Luocio said softly, You will be too tired like this. Yu Yi said softly, This is the most important project for Master's next harvest. Use this to calculate, anyway I have no use for it. Luocio opened his palm, releasing a golden light ball. This was the Book of Araya obtained from the Prunglai treasure house. Of course, it was only a part of the complete Araya's book, but it already had the terrifying effect of directly rewriting the memory of a subworld creature, distorting history, and even had a powerful calculation ability. The 30-year reincarnation given to Momo was based on the calculation ability of the Araya's book. This part of the Araya's book was not the payment of the customer in the transaction, so Luocio didn't have the restriction that the transaction items needed to be stored or sacrificed within 3 days, so he kept it. Now it was just right to put it into the creation of a new world. Yu Yi weighed this part of the Araya's book in her hand and suddenly said, "It is better to directly use it as the core of the world, so it can play its role to the maximum, but unfortunately it is not complete. If it is complete, I am afraid it can directly create a complete subworld." After all, the world fragment given by Luocio was only a fragment from a subworld, and it was only the background of one era in the subworld. The expansion of the space naturally had a limit, and it couldn't really evolve a space like the Earth. Just like the former world of Yenwue, it was only an island country as the land, surrounded by the ocean, and the ocean had an end. Although the sun rose and the moon set, in essence, it was more similar to the ancient Kelowna theory of the square sky and square earth. The complete Araya's book had the ability to upgrade the world fragment into a complete subworld. Luocio thought through some things. Obviously, there was more than one book of the Araya's book. Every subworld should have its own book of the Araya, just like the numbered Araya. Many subworlds were the hotbeds for cultivating a perfect world. Many subworlds were probably upgraded from the original world fragment with the help of the Araya's book. Well, it seemed that he had unconsciously done something similar to the whole Araya system. "Master?" Miss Maid's voice interrupted Luocio's thoughts. He smiled slightly and didn't mind, but reached out to take off Miss Maid's glasses. "Accompany me to dinner in the evening. It's good to strike a balance between work and rest." "Is it Miss Wren's invitation?" Miss Maid's eyes brightened slightly, and she whispered, "Then I have to prepare well." Since the unknown upgrade, the holy soul sealed in Miss Maid's body began to have a strange commotion little by little. "Just do it as usual." Luocio smiled. "It'll scare her if it's too strong." "Yes." The servant girl nodded slightly. But when she nodded, her movements suddenly became stiff, and there was even a faint sound of gears rubbing. It seemed that it was time to oil it. "Let me help you," Luocio said softly. "How is it? Do you feel better?" In the bathroom, white mist slowly overflowed from the bathtub and then sank. It didn't take long for it to cover the bathroom floor. In the bathtub, the little butterfly monster who took off all her clothes was sitting cross-legged according to Long Shirua's instructions. She began to actively cultivate her monster power. The aura began to erupt from Mount Tai. Now it filled the land of Kelowna. The concentration of aura would increase day by day, and it would eventually return to the level of Taoist monsters and supernatural beings in ancient times. Now that they had begun to cultivate demonic powers, or those of the Taoist sects who cultivated dermic powers, they could all feel the benefit. It could be said that during this time, most of the Taoists and monsters were in seclusion and enjoying the benefits of this new era wholeheartedly. It was said that the Elysium Bar, which had always been lively, had become a lot quieter recently. Even Sun Shaoxing, the wild monkey, had begun to cultivate in seclusion for the first time. He even planned to return to the place where he obtained the demon and try to break through to the Monster King realm. Of course, Long Shirua didn't care about these things. What she cared about was whether Luo Dance could restrain her instinctive desire to mate. "No, my body is still very hot." The little butterfly monster raised her head pitifully at this time. The dry ice in the bathtub was evaporating at a very fast speed. It seemed that her body was getting hotter and hotter. "Tut! I didn't expect you to have such a big desire. Are you a woman who is cold on the outside?" Long Shirua pursed her lips and glanced at the breast of the little butterfly. she found that the 2 scarlet spots had swollen like 2 grapes, ripe and attractive. "Sister Long, how can you say that to me?" Luo Dance was more aggrieved. Long Shirua shook her head and said, "Restrain yourself first. Your body has been transformed by Suzijuan. Even I don't know how long your estrus will last. It's your first time, so it's inevitable that you don't know what to do. But don't worry, I won't let you sleep with me." Luo Dance had to nod. Long Shirua said, "Well, I'll get some liquid nitrogen first and check the situation. If it doesn't work, I'll go to the secret area of Xianyuan Palace and get some 9 heaven cold pond water for you. Remember to calm down and cultivate. Although it's uncomfortable to be in estrus, it's also a good thing for you if you can resist the instinct to cultivate. Your demon power will definitely improve by leaps and bounds." But she wanted to read. The adult college entrance examination was coming soon. Seeing Luo Dance's pitiful look, Long Shirua didn't want to stay any longer. She was afraid that she would be soft-hearted. But what if the 9 heaven cold pond water in the secret area of Xianyuan Palace couldn't resist the desire of this little butterfly? Should she knock it out and wait for the estrus period to pass? Or should he just follow nature and give this milk cow butterfly a breeding butterfly? But Luo Dance's race seemed to be going extinct. Long Shirua didn't know where to get another one, and it had to be a male one. But considering Luo Dance's temperament, she was afraid that such a spouse would be unwilling. Shinryu Kelowna was a little irritated at once. "Fight? No problem, just rush up and smash whoever you don't like. Play tricks? No problem, just rush up and smash whoever you don't like. But the matter of estrus, why do I have to care about this?" It seemed that Lord True Dragon, who had finally returned from the snow-capped peak, was still very angry. Long Shirua sighed, pulling open her collar and started to fan herself. It was strange. As a Shinryu Kelowna, she was invincible in the world. Even if she went deep into the magma of the Earth's core, it was just like swimming. Why did she feel hot? Long Shirua only felt that she began to feel a little hot, and there was a restless breath rising from her lower abdomen. "What's going on? Why am I?" Long Shirua was dumbfounded. She was not like Luo Dance, who had entered the estrus period for the first time. Obviously, she knew her physical condition in an instant. Long Shirua shuddered, suddenly noticing that there seemed to be some glittering things in the bathroom. She walked to the wall of the bathroom and touched it, only to find some glittering powder on her fingers. Looking for the source, Long Shirua was surprised to find that the glittering powder was from the colorful wings behind Luo Dance. "Luo Dance, how dare you say you're not coquettish?" Chapter 12:21. In short, she had scolded Luo Dance. Looking at Luo Dance's aggrieved face, Long Shirua, who had a sharp tongue but a soft heart, finally sighed helplessly. She waved her hand toward Luo Dance, and a gentle force wrapped around the little butterfly monster's body, preventing the strange powder from spreading again. Luo Dance's mutation was caused by Suzijuan, but this stinky girl probably didn't expect that such a strange and dirty thing would appear. This thing was so evil that even she didn't notice it at first. However, the abnormality in her body was caused by external things and not really a fatal state. Shinryu's power circulated in her body, and Long Shirua had already forced out all the powder that she had accidentally inhaled. After that, Long Shirua carefully collected the scattered powder on the road. She wanted to refine it directly with fire, but she thought that it was a strange thing that could be used in the future, so she kept it. It was strange that Luo Dance's colorful wings could be opened early. Usually, she would let them out to stretch and take care of them, but she had never seen this kind of powder. Could it be that this thing was specially produced when she was in estrus? Thinking about this, although the powder in her hand had its own evil awakening, it was more precious. Because she didn't know when Luo Dance would be in estrus next time, let alone whether this thing would appear next time. "I just inhaled a little bit by accident and already had a reaction. If it's a large amount, I don't know if I can bear it." Looking at the colorful ball the size of a lantern fruit, Long Shirua couldn't help but fall into contemplation. Perhaps even an immortal's body couldn't bear this thing, right? Looking at the powder that kept peeling off from the colorful wings, Kelowna Shinryu suddenly narrowed her eyes. It seemed that the more excited she was, the more the powder would fall off. Dance, if you really can't bear it, just do it with your body. I'm using Shinryu's power to trap you, so there won't be any problem. You've grown up, and it's time to teach you the joy of being a female. Long Shirua stretched out her hands, and her 10 white jade-like fingers twisted flexibly like the tentacles of an octopus. Aga? The apartment was not big, but it was well decorated with 1 bedroom, 1 living room and 1 bathroom. For a single person, it was totally a comfortable nest. Nan Xiaonan wore pajamas, curling up on the chair, holding a cup of freshly brewed oatmeal in her hand, and at the same time, she was looking at the laptop. Once again, Nan Xiaonan sighed at the convenience of this subworld's technology, and couldn't help muttering. The transfer application she wrote was not approved. The director, who ruled by inaction and was safe, rejected Nan Xiaonan's application with many reasons. If it were not for the fact that the recovery of her power was not satisfactory and that Nan Xiaonan did not dare to use her power in this dangerous subworld, this small problem would have been solved on the spot. However, she was really unwilling to continue staying in this place, because in the past 2 days, she had occasionally heard from Xiao Bao that the woman who was protected by the will of the world was the one who would often run to the police station. Therefore, under Nan Xiaonan's repeated insistence and resistance, Director Liu had no choice but to give her a deadline with a bitter face. At least after this dismembered corpse case was solved, he would consider transferring her. For Nan Xiaonan at this stage, the identity of a forensic doctor was still very useful. This time, her original body explored the subworld, and only a trace of her consciousness came to this subworld. At the beginning, it was still barely enough, and she wasn't a rootless duckweed. Since this was the case, she wanted to solve this case as soon as possible, and then she could leave this dangerous place. When she woke up this morning, she clearly felt that the powerful presence that had left not long ago had returned again. Including the unknown darkness, the woman protected by the will of the world, and this powerful aura, there were 3 parties in this city that made Nan Xiaonan feel incomparably fearful. Nan Xiaonan, who seemed to have fallen into the rhythm of this world's desserts, subconsciously licked her lips and planned what to do today. If she wanted to solve the case as soon as possible, simply sitting in the forensic doctor class wouldn't solve the problem, because most of the clues had been checked, and there was nothing good to be found, so she planned to go to the scene of the murder herself. Now I have only recovered 0.012 units of strength. I hope it won't be too much. She was like a housewife without rice. Even though she had a lot of tricks up her sleeve, she suffered from the lack of units of strength. Although the concentration of elements in this world was good, and there was a trend of gradually increasing, before she could analyze the rules of this world, she couldn't practice like in the original subworld. She could absorb some residual energy to replenish her units of strength, but there were only a few cases of residual energy attached to a corpse. This was the case for stowaways. Although she could barely get the right to stay, she was greatly restricted in all aspects. Unless she could truly be fully recognized by the will of this subworld, then there was no need for her to analyze the rules of this world. For example, she was like an unregistered resident without a green card, without an identity card. Even if she could stay, the work she could do was extremely limited, and there was no social security at all. Wasting time was equivalent to wasting life. Nan Xiaonan suddenly stood up, grabbed the bottom of her pajamas with both hands, lifted it up, and began to change out of her clothes. Just as she was biting her socks and preparing to pull up her pants, the kettle on the gas stove suddenly began to emit steam. Frightened, Nan Xiaonan hurriedly wanted to rush over, but in the end, she staggered and fell to the ground. She knocked her forehead, and a neither small nor large bruise appeared on her forehead. Why am I so unlucky? There were a lot fewer people in the case team today, because some of them had gone to City X with Ma Howd. However, fewer people didn't mean that the work was difficult. On the contrary, there was a faint hope of a breakthrough. Early in the morning, Captain Zhou Yuxing was in high spirits, carefully studying the newly obtained information. His female colleague was speaking in a clear voice. According to Captain Zhou's request, we obtained all the records of Wang Liang and Wu Rong, mainly focusing on the month before and after their death. The information had been copied, and Chen Mingming was looking at the copy in his hand, listening attentively. However, at this moment, his phone rang, breaking the silence. It was like a student's phone ringing during class, attracting a lot of attention. Chen Mingming showed an apologetic look, then fiddled with the phone a few times, and then directly put it on silent mode. The female colleague continued. According to the time of death of Wu Rong and Wang Liang, we found that there were no changes in Wang Liang's account after his death. However, between the time of death of Wu Rong, which was November 22 last year, and November 27, there were 3 records of transfers: 56,000, 81,000 and 63,000. The account holder was Wang Liang. The female colleague's report wasn't finished yet. The total amount was 200,000. According to Brother Long's testimony, we found several other creditors that didn't include Wang Liang. After verification, between November 22 and November 28 last year, Wang Liang repaid 3 debts: 50,000, 70,000, and 50,000 respectively. The 3 times of repayment were after the day of the 3 transfers, no more than 6 hours. After the female colleague finished her report, she sat down. Zhou Yuxing looked around at everyone and said seriously, Wu Rong died before her account was transferred, and the beneficiary was Wang Liang. What do you think? These are all records of the phone transfers, but Wu Rong was already dead before this. This means that someone, or Wang Liang's idiot, used Wu Rong's phone to transfer money to Wang Liang after Wu Rong died, one of the colleagues said. Actually, it's very obvious. Wang Liang might have rebelled after seeing the money. Everyone knows that Wang Liang usually flirted with different women because he was greedy for money. In fact, according to the investigation, the women who were related to Wang Liang all gave him money, and this money was used to repay Wang Liang's gambling debt. This Wu Rong even lent money to Wang Liang more than once. Before Wu Rong left, she even made a scene at the bar where Wang Liang worked. Assuming that Wang Liang used all kinds of methods to coax Wu Rong to leave with him to go to X City, then waited for things to calm down before borrowing money from Wu Rong. If Wu Rong refused, would Wang Liang suddenly attack her? You're saying that he killed Wu Rong, took her phone, and started a series of conspiracies to pretend that Wu Rong was still alive, then started using Wu Rong's inheritance? If that's the case, why would Wang Liang die in his own home? It can't be that he took revenge after Wu Rong died, right? And don't forget, although Wu Rong's time of death was determined to be between November 18th and 22nd, she came back through the train station on November 25th. Who was this person who came back? The case seemed to be in a contradiction again. The conference room began to quiet down. Zhou Yuxing smacked his lips, then glanced at Chen Mingming, who was deep in thought, and said casually, Chen Mingming, what do you think? Chen Mingming raised his head and faced everyone's gazes. He didn't feel as uneasy as he did at the beginning. After thinking for a while, he said, Lend me your laptop for a while. He directly walked in front of the female colleague and took her place. Then, he started to fiddle with something. On the projector, everyone started to see what Chen Mingming was doing. It was a piece of Photoshop software. Chen Mingming seemed to be thinking about something. He pulled up Wang Liang's photo and started to modify it. Not long after, Wang Liang's appearance in the photo gradually changed to that of a woman. After taking a closer look, they could even see that Wang Liang's appearance after the change was 60 to 70% similar to Wu Rong's. Everyone didn't know why Chen Mingming did this, but Zhou Yuxing's heart skipped a beat and he quickly asked, You mean, Wang Liang pretended to be Wu Rong and got on the train? Chen Mingming nodded. The two of them came back one after the other. But according to the time, Wang Liang definitely had time to secretly return to X City after coming back. Then, he pretended to be Wu Rong and came back again. Then, he pretended to be Wu Rong and left before coming back again. Where's the evidence? Zhou Yuxing's eyes lit up, but he wasn't sure. Chen Mingming said indifferently, "It's just a conjecture. It's possible to prove this conjecture. If you don't go to X City through the normal route, you can only choose to do private car business without a license. Since Wang Liang wanted to erase the normal traces, he would only choose such an illegal car. But it's a long way from here to X City. Even if there are illegal car drivers doing this kind of business, there shouldn't be many of them. If you want to investigate, it should be easy to find them." As he said this, Chen Mingming glanced at the female colleague who gave up her seat. "Then, can makeup be done to such an extent? I'm not very familiar with this aspect." The female colleague thought carefully and said, "According to Wang Liang and Wu Rong's figures, it's possible. An ID card can't mark a person's height, and the train station has a lot of people. The security check process only takes a moment. If you want to, it's totally possible. It's really one of the top 3 sorcery in Asia." The colleague next to her sighed. Zhou Yuxing was more careful and asked directly, "Mingming, how did you think of the disguise?" Chen Mingming thought for a while and said, "I don't know. It was just a flash of inspiration. If you want to ask for evidence, I can't answer you. Sometimes what you need to solve a case is inspiration." Zhou Yuxing nodded. "This hypothesis is good. Anyway, we're now in a new puzzle. Let's not follow this train of thought. Now, send someone to find the drivers who do illegal car business in X City and this city. Ask them if Wang Liang has appeared before." "Yes." Everyone quickly left their seats to get to work. Chen Mingming sighed, closed the notebook in front of him, and rubbed his eyebrows. Zhou Yuxing walked over and asked with concern, "What's wrong?" "Nothing, just a little tired." Chen Mingming shook his head. "Tired early in the morning?" Zhou Yuxing was puzzled. "Did you not sleep well last night? Maybe it's spring fatigue." Chen Mingming smiled. "I'll also check the drivers of the illegal cars." Zhou Yuxing nodded. "Let's take my car." To be honest, Zhou Yuxing enjoyed the feeling of being a father and son in battle. Chen Mingming didn't resist. He smiled and nodded. Holding a black umbrella, Nan Xiaonan came to the scene of Wang Liang's murder again. She had been to this place once before, so naturally, she would be able to find her way here. It was just that last time she was surrounded by policemen, so naturally, she wouldn't do anything out of the ordinary. Besides, at that time, she didn't intend to use her precious force to investigate this kind of murder case. But this time, in order to be transferred as soon as possible, she had to do it. But what Nan Xiaonan never expected was that she would hear a nightmarish voice at this moment. "Hey, isn't this medical examiner Nan? What a coincidence, you're here too." The person who appeared in front of Nan Xiaonan was the woman who had the protection of the world's consciousness. Ren Xiling was also holding an umbrella, a cup of soy milk, and a lady's handbag on her shoulder. She was beaming with joy as she walked over quickly. Nan Xiaonan's expression changed slightly. Chapter 12:22. Why did Nanny Ren appear here? It was purely because she had nothing to do. Of course, it was a joke. Nanny Ren, who had just walked into the office in the morning, was confused by the fact that she had been promoted and was suspected to have reached the peak of her life. She felt that she needed to come out and breathe some fresh air, at least to calm down. It was definitely not to feel the pleasure of being able to sneak out of work openly under the nose of the original chief editor. It was so cool. However, it was really unexpected to meet the forensic Dr. Nan Xiaonan. Originally, the police would not come to this kind of murder scene after recording, extracting evidence, and moving the body away. What a coincidence, forensic Dr. Nan. Ren Xiling greeted her cordially. "Don't come over. Despite this, Nan Xiaonan still nodded calmly. But why was it like this? She had worked hard for the transfer, but she still couldn't escape? Are you also here to investigate? Ren Xiling smiled and her eyes curved into crescent moons. Why don't you take me with you? Maybe I can help. Judging from her attitude, it seemed that she was going to rely on her. Nan Xiaonan sighed in her heart. She didn't want to have too much contact with this woman, but if she refused, would it attract the attention of the world's will? She was very clear about the huge power behind this kind of child of the world, because their ideas would always be realized unintentionally. In short, it was a kind of strong luck state of, God is helping me. Even if she refused at this time, under the irresistible operation of the world's will, she was afraid that she would eventually enter the scene as she wished. Nan Xiaonan quickly calculated the gains and losses in her heart. Sure enough, it's still a bit difficult. Looking at Nan Xiaonan's silent appearance, Ren Xiling couldn't help but sigh in her heart. It seems that the plan to fish in troubled waters is going to fail. Most likely, after she left last time, Xiaobao had already exposed her identity, right? Well, you follow me. Little did she know that Nan Xiaonan, who couldn't distinguish the essential difference between Ren Xiling, a woman who was protected by the world's will, and a real child of the aristocratic family, directly nodded at this time. Mammy Rin was stunned for a moment. Then, she was overjoyed and said, Dr. Nan, I will definitely thank you. You are much more reliable than old Ma. Achoo! In City X, Sir Ma, who was heading to a place where unlicensed drivers often lurked, suddenly sneezed because of the news from Zhou Yusheng. Sir Ma, have you caught a cold? Lin Feng asked casually. Officer Ma rubbed his nose and said casually, I don't think so. I just shivered suddenly. How long will it take before we arrive? About half an hour. If we can find out that Wang Liang really took an unlicensed taxi back, the case might be clearer, Lin Feng said seriously. Ma Hao nodded. He suddenly thought of looking for someone in his own city, especially an unlicensed driver in the gray area. Maybe it would be more convenient to find Ren Xiling? Do as you think. Nan Xiaonan had actually been to the murder scene, but not on the day when the body was found. She came to carefully collect the evidence at the scene. When the scene was judged to be worthless, basically no one would be sent to guard it. As for the seal, it would probably be unlocked after the case was solved. The two women with different thoughts soon came to the living room of the murder scene. Ren Xiling looked around with interest and touched, but her movements were actually very careful. She even prepared a pair of plastic gloves for herself. Nan Xiaonan looked at Ren Xiling's appearance, thinking that this woman really came prepared. It was probably not the first time that she did this kind of thing. You can't take photos. Seeing Ren Xiling take out her mobile phone, Nan Xiaonan subconsciously said, of course, this was not her own intention, but the instinct of the real Nan Xiaonan as an assimilated soul who got temporary residence. I know. Mammy Rin smiled embarrassedly. Just answer the phone. Mammy Rin pulled her to the balcony. This phone call was from Ma Hao. The reason why Mammy Rin smiled embarrassedly was that she had a guilty conscience. She didn't expect that Ma Hao would call at this time. Was it discovered? Looking for someone? The result was somewhat out of Mammy Ren's expectation. After being stunned, she quickly took out a small notebook and began to record. City X, November. Well, I know, looking for the unlicensed taxi drivers who were released these days, right? No problem, wait for my news. As usual, the informant fee is 1,500 yuan. After hanging up the phone, Ren Xiling immediately began to make another phone call. Her voice was not loud, and she deliberately lowered it. But with Nan Xiaonan's ability, it was not a problem for her to hear clearly. Hey Mouse Chong, find me some people. Yes, last year November. City X. 1,500 yuan. You think it's too little? Okay, then I'll find Snake Ming. I'll transfer it to you later. I tell you, this is to buy milk powder for your wife. If you dare to gamble with it, I'll kill you. Okay, I'll wait for your news. When Ren Xiling finished 2 phone calls and walked back to the living room, Nan Xiaonan pretended not to know and was squatting on the other side of the freezer. Ren Xiling walked over curiously. At this time, Nan Xiaonan stood up and blocked one side of the freezer with her body. The part that was blocked suddenly had a strange dark red symbol lit up, but in an instant, the dark red symbol seemed to have melted and directly disappeared into the freezer. Dr. Nan, didn't you sleep well last night? Why do I feel that your face is a little pale? Ren Xiling blinked. When he saw her just now, her face was still very good. It's okay, I'm a little anemic. Nan Xiaonan said indifferently. Nan Xiaonan originally did have slight anemia. Oh, come, eat some of this. Ren Xiling smiled and directly took out a can of M&M's chocolate beans from her handbag. Nan Xiaonan received 10,000 points of damage from M&M's. Nan Xiaonan chose to resist. Resistance value was 0, resistance failed. Nan Xiaonan received 10,000 points of true damage. Nan Xiaonan stretched out her hand against her will. Nan Xiaonan swallowed M&M's. Satisfaction plus 100%. Nan Xiaonan's favorability towards Ren Xiling remained unchanged. The round ended. Thank you. Nan Xiaonan glanced at the can of chocolate beans in Ren Xiling's hand and decided to remember to store some when she went back. Nanny Ren smiled and said, Actually, I don't like to eat this thing. Sometimes, when I'm doing interviews, I might meet children or people with slight anemia like you, so I use it to gain favorability. It shouldn't have expired, right? When was the last time? How many months ago? Nan Xiaonan smiled, then her heart skipped a beat. Oh no, I almost fell into the trap of the child of the world. She was all too clear about the strong luck of the child of the world. It was as if he had the help of the gods and could easily increase the favorability of the people around him. I'm leaving, Nan Xiaonan suddenly said. Ren Xiling looked around and thought that she really didn't come when she found the body, so she couldn't see anything. She felt a little regretful, but there was nothing she could do, so she nodded and said, Are you going back to the station? I'll send you back, I just drove out. No, I'm on leave today. Nan Xiaonan refused. You're still working on leave? Ren Xiling was stunned. Dr. Nan, you're really a workaholic. Hurry up and leave. Nan Xiaonan nodded indifferently, then signaled Ren Xiling to leave. Nanny Ren had no choice but to say, You really don't need me to send you back? It's raining now, so it's not easy to walk. You're welcome. Downstairs, Nan Xiaonan saw that Ren Xiling had walked to the red car, so she subconsciously breathed a sigh of relief. Holding an umbrella, she looked up at the location of the rented house where the accident happened, thinking that if she came again at night, the tactic should be effective. Sure enough, it was because her strength was too low. If it was her original body before she came here, even if it was only 1/10 of her original strength, it would be effective instantly. Shaking her head, Nan Xiaonan was about to leave. But at this time, a takeaway truck passed by at lightning speed, and the tires splashed the dirty water from the puddles on the ground, directly drenching her body. Nan Xiaonan instantly became a drowned rat. Dr. Nan, I'll send you back. Ren Xiling in the car in the distance rolled down the window and called out to her. Nan Xiaonan looked at her wet clothes and couldn't help but sigh. Sure enough, child of the world. Okay. Knowing that she probably couldn't escape, Nan Xiaonan could only sigh helplessly and then carefully get into Ren Xiling's car. Come to my house and have a cup of hot tea. Nan Xiaonan sighed again. If possible, she was very willing to say goodbye to this woman in front of her house, but there were too many things to consider. The child of the world was a person with strong luck, and to a certain extent, she could even affect the illusory luck of the people around her. For so many years, Nan Xiaonan had seen too many unlucky people who failed to leave a good impression on the child of the world. Although this so-called good impression could be said to be metaphysics, metaphysics was the thing that should not be gambled with. In Nan Xiaonan's previous world, there was such an evil sorcerer. because of the disgust of the child of the world, an accident happened the next day when he was practicing sorcery. A dignified 9-star sorcerer, because of the child of the world's words, evil deeds bring about self-destruction, died tragically under a sorcery that had thousands of proficiency points. Although at this moment, if she directly went upstairs and ignored Renziling, she would at most receive irrelevant comments such as rude, ungrateful, bad manners, and so on. Nan Xiaonan really didn't know whether such a small comment would bring her bad luck in the future. How can I? Renziling blinked. It's not good if I disturb your family. Then why do you have such an eager reaction? It's okay, I live alone. Nan Xiaonan smiled. Since there was a further interaction, at least before the transfer, she would try not to leave a bad impression in front of the child of the world. The target is back. In a unit of another apartment building next to the apartment building, a foreign young man in his 30s, wearing a black jacket and holding a telescope, was holding a satellite phone and seemed to be communicating with someone. You disappoint me. How is she still alive? Don't fail this time. I know. But a strange woman came to her house. Does this strange woman know anything? I don't know. We don't have any information about this strange woman before. Be careful. Get rid of this strange woman as well. The organization's affairs are not allowed to be leaked. Okay. The foreign young man nodded. After putting away the phone, he began to open the suitcase next to him. He took out the things inside and then began to assemble them. It was a sniper rifle. He set it up at the window. Wow, you really live alone. Renziling looked at Nan Xiaonan's apartment. The layout of one room, one living room, and one bathroom was really suitable for single people. She sat down casually with her beautiful eyes. When I was in college, I wanted to live in an apartment like this when I graduated and worked. What about now? Nan Xiaonan stood in front of the gas stove boiling water and asked casually. Now, I live with my son. Nanny Ren looked over. Don't you want to change your clothes first? Be careful not to catch a cold. Right away. Nan Xiaonan smiled slightly. Keep up the poise, keep up the poise. But live with her son? Nan Xiaonan felt a little strange. She looked at Renziling's face. She didn't think she had given birth. Although she was a little confused, Nan Xiaonan didn't intend to ask further. After turning down the gas stove, she walked directly into the room. Why did this guy cover the curtains so tightly? And the curtains were black, which looked a little depressing. Renziling opened the floor-to-ceiling window, breathed in the air outside, and looked out from the apartment building. At this time, Mouse Chong called and said that he had found the person. So fast. Recently I cooperated with a friend to do a private client business. Most of the places where we hide are mostly unlicensed drivers, and basically all of them are fixed people, so it's easy to find them. I'm thinking if I should reduce the benefits. Don't, my lady, my bone dragon is still waiting for milk powder at home. Forget it, be careful of your private client. Although it's not good, it's better than going to the mahjong house every day and stealing wires from the manhole cover. Keep an eye on it, I can't protect you if something happens. Got it, I'll send you the phone number and name. After receiving the message, Renziling turned around and directly sent it to Ma Haud, who was far away in X City, and didn't forget to remind him about the informant's fee. Renziling began to scan the dream house that she used to live in, and a photo placed on the bookshelf next to the workbench attracted her attention. Nan Xiaonan just changed her clothes and walked out at this time, but she saw Renziling holding a photo frame and staring at it. She suddenly had an ominous feeling. Wow, you and old Qin know each other. Renziling looked at Nan Xiaonan and smiled. Nan Xiaonan nodded. Could it be that this woman had really dealt with all the people in the police station? I'm kind of his junior sister. Nan Xiaonan said slowly. As Section Chief Qin's junior sister, she was also Nan Xiaonan's real identity. After all, she was originally an illegal stowaway, and when she chose to merge with Nan Xiaonan, she lost a lot of her original memories of Nan Xiaonan, so she only had a fragmentary understanding of Nan Xiaonan's past. However, Nan Xiaonan didn't lose her professional skills. She couldn't help but recall the situation when she chose Nan Xiaonan. At that time, this woman had just been in a car accident and was in a state of near death, so the merging was very smooth. She thought that the other consciousnesses trapped in this subworld were in the same situation, right? While Nan Xiaonan was immersed in her memories, Ren Xiling continued to look at the photo. In the photo, there was not only Nan Xiaonan, but also Section Chief Qin, and several other guys in white robes. 2 of them were white, 1 was black, and 1 of them was even an old man. It seemed that the photo was taken in the resting area of a research institute, and a gray building could be faintly seen in the background. This old man, I seem to have seen him somewhere. Ren Xiling frowned subconsciously. Nan Xiaonan had a faint impulse to drive Ren Xiling out. This was not her own wish, but from the real Nan Xiaonan. But at this moment, a strong sense of crisis hit her, and Nan Xiaonan blurted out, "Be careful." Ren Xiling was suddenly startled, her hand slipped, and the photo frame in her hand directly fell to the ground. In a very short time, at the moment when the photo frame fell, a high-speed bullet was shot from an apartment unit dozens of meters away at the same time. Bang! The photo frame fell to the ground and the glass mirror suddenly burst. Ren Xiling was stunned and quickly squatted down. I'm sorry, I didn't mean it." Seeing Ren Xiling began to pick up the glass fragments on the ground in a hurry, Nan Xiaonan widened her eyes, because she clearly felt the fluctuation of the world's will at this moment, and a special barrier suddenly appeared and flashed behind Ren Xiling. It seemed as if something was shooting at them, and then disappeared the moment it penetrated the barrier. Nan Xiaonan thoughtfully looked at the direction where the high-speed object appeared. It was just that the distance was too far, and there were many open or closed windows on the opposite side, so she couldn't tell for a moment. But looking at Ren Xiling, who obviously didn't know anything, Nan Xiaonan couldn't help but feel strange. This is too outrageous, isn't it? Even if she is the child of the world, even if she is very lucky, this is too outrageous. Isn't it said that the child of the world has to go through a lot of difficulties before she can cultivate? This is clearly an open protection, okay? At the same time, outside the mysterious apartment, the young man who was close to the window suddenly frowned. The bullet had clearly been shot, but it didn't hit. It's impossible to miss. But at the moment when he was confused, the space behind him suddenly distorted, and a bullet suddenly shot out, directly entering the back of his head. Chapter 12:23. Legend had it that the thoughts and actions produced by the activity of the cells in the cerebral cortex could ignore the laws of time. Of course, the so-called 10,000 years in a single glance was impossible. At the moment, Nan Xiaonan's mind was operating at full speed, madly accelerating and temporarily breaking away from the limits of physical activity. She had reached a state where only a few seconds had passed in the outside world, but her mind had already completed several minutes or even dozens of minutes of thinking. There was no doubt that Nan Xiaonan was not doing this on purpose. This danger was directed at Ren Xiling. It was very simple. If it was directed at Ren Xiling, the child of the world, and this was the training that the world was giving to the child of the world, why would the world will be so brazen and directly interfere when the person involved was unaware? Was it that free? Since it wasn't directed at Ren Xiling, there was only one possibility. This danger was directed at him. To be more precise, it was directed at the identity of Nan Xiaonan. However, because of the fusion, she did not inherit too many of Nan Xiaonan's memories, and those fragmented memory fragments could not be pieced together to form a complete and useful clue. So, who was planning to assassinate Nan Xiaonan's identity? Come to think of it, when she fused with Nan Xiaonan, the near-death state of Nan Xiaonan due to the car accident was probably not an accident, but a premeditated murder. She did not know that she just happened to be lost in this subworld at this time, which was why after the fusion, She only thought that it was a normal car accident. She even thought that her luck was not too bad. At least she had picked up an identity that she could fuse with from the start. Now, it seemed that this was not luck, but bad luck. The identity of Nan Xiaonan she had fused with was being hunted. Who was chasing after Nan Xiaonan's identity? As for the strength of the person behind Nan Xiaonan, it was absolutely unknown to her. The assassination this time had obviously failed. Then, would there still be endless pursuits to follow? This subworld was too dangerous, and Nan Xiaonan had already sensed powerful presences that could directly blow her up. What if the person or organization chasing after Nan Xiaonan's identity also had extraordinary powers? She only had 0.003 units of power now. Today, at the scene of Wang Liang's murder, she had even used 0.008 units of power without hesitation. She was in severe regret. She had to protect herself. No matter what, she had to find a way out and return to her original body. So, she had to protect herself. Ren Xiling. Her cerebral cortex was still operating crazily, rapidly depleting the heat in her body at every moment. Ren Xiling was the child of the world, and the world's consciousness was openly protecting her. This was an unbreakable shield. In front of the subworld's will, even if she was undying, there shouldn't be any power in the subworld that could resist the will of the world. Since the will of the world was always protecting this woman, staying by her side was equivalent to being protected by the will of the world at all times, even though this might cause her to be directly targeted by the will of the world, or perhaps it had already targeted her. Nan Xiaonan didn't feel the feeling of being spied on by the will of the world. It was very likely that it had turned a blind eye to this situation. As for why it would turn a blind eye, Nan Xiaonan didn't know. The will of the world had its own set of unique judgment standards, and even she couldn't completely understand this standard. But without a doubt, from the current situation, the will of the world didn't oppose her appearing by this woman's side. Thinking of this, Nan Xiaonan even gritted her teeth, and didn't hesitate to use 0.002 units of her remaining 0.003 units of power to activate her innate soul ability, True Sight. True Sight could observe everything within a range of 50 meters. Very quickly, under the effect of True Sight, Nan Xiaonan found the source of the sudden danger. It was indeed in the building opposite her apartment. A gunman had already fallen into a pool of blood, and the back of his head had been directly blown apart. Looking at the position where the gunman was shot, and thinking of the bullet that suddenly disappeared, Nan Xiaonan already understood some things. But after understanding it, she was even more terrified. Not only did it remove this woman's danger, it even directly erased the source of the danger. Was it so unreasonable? Ren Xiling, this was the F***king leg of a golden elephant. No, the will of the world only erased the gunman, but it didn't mean that the person or organization behind the gunman would also be erased, because the other party's target was Nan Xiaonan's identity. So, it was very likely that after Ren Xiling left her side, danger would once again befall her, and the will of the world obviously wouldn't care. Are you okay? The crazy movement of the cerebral cortex suddenly stopped at this time. Nan Xiaonan subconsciously looked at Ren Xiling, and saw that she was looking at her worriedly. Why is your face so pale and you're sweating cold sweat? Don't tell me you're anemic again? Ren Xiling hurriedly found her chocolate beans that she didn't know had expired. Eat some? The crazy consumption of physical strength and the use of units of power made Nan Xiaonan quite weak at this time, but when she thought of the danger she would encounter next, she had to endure it. Then, her heart moved, and she thought of a way to save herself. Sister Ren, can I ask you for a favor? Nan Xiaonan showed a rather forced smile. Ren Xiling was stunned and suddenly shivered. It wasn't because she felt any danger, but because she felt that the word sister gave her goosebumps. What's the matter? Nan Xiaonan quickly walked to the floor-to-ceiling window and drew the curtains. She glanced at the originally pitch-black curtains. Suddenly, an idea popped up in her mind, and her mind was suddenly filled with ideas. Sister Ren, do you deserve me to use this kind of black curtains at home and cover it so tightly? Nan Xiaonan sighed and said faintly. Ren Xiling thought for a while and said, well, it's nothing to have some weird hobbies as a forensic doctor. I used to know a forensic doctor who liked to lie on the operating table when he had nothing to do. He said that it was easier to get close to the dead. Nan Xiaonan could only sigh again and sit down. She lowered her head and said helplessly, no, it's actually because I've been followed recently. Stalk? Ren Xiling blinked her eyes, but her interest was piqued. How? Nan Xiaonan showed a frightened look and grabbed the corner of her clothes. I don't know, I just feel like I'm being watched all day long, and I've received flowers in front of my house for no reason. It's nothing, maybe someone has a crush on you, it's a good thing. Nan Xiaonan shook her head and said, if it's like what you said, it's fine, but they also send some strange things. Even underwear used by men. You know that I'm a forensic doctor, I can tell what's stuck on it at first glance. So perverted. Ren Xiling suddenly stood up. How can this be? Call the police. It's useless to call the police. Nan Xiaonan said helplessly. Ren Xiling was a person with a strong sense of justice. She suddenly slammed the table and said angrily, you're a forensic doctor, aren't you? Why don't you know how to protect yourself when you encounter this kind of thing? Nan Xiaonan continued to sigh. Do you know why I was transferred here? It's because I can't get rid of the person behind this. In fact, before I came here, I've been transferred several times, and I've also called the police for investigation several times, but I can't catch the person. What else can I do? I see. Ren Xiling couldn't help but frown. The police couldn't catch him several times, and you were forced to transfer to another place. This pervert is so professional. Well, how do you want me to help you? Nan Xiaonan said, actually, I don't want to transfer. It's not a solution to keep avoiding it. Besides, I like the current working environment, and I don't want to leave so soon. So, Sister Ren, can I stay at your house for a few days? These 2 days I've been scared to death at night, and I can't sleep well. My spirit is too low, otherwise I wouldn't have taken a break today. Hey, but didn't you just go to the murder scene? Ren Xiling asked curiously. Nan Xiaonan said, I just came here and took over this tricky case, so I want to show off. And that person won't dare to act recklessly in broad daylight. Besides, that guy always shows up. So, Ren Xiling muttered, come to my house? But is this useful? Oh, I'm not afraid of anything. If this pervert dares to come to my house, I'll make him kneel down and beg for mercy. But according to what you said, this pervert only hides behind the scenes to do some dirty things, and never shows up. So, even if you come to my house, it doesn't seem to improve much, right? Well, you'd better report the case. As for me, I still have some connections, and I'll help you find the pervert behind this. Don't worry, as long as it's in this city, there's no one I can't find. Thank you, Sister Ren Xiling. Nan Xiaonan grabbed Ren Xiling's hand. Ren Xiling muttered, but it's really dangerous for you to live alone. How about this, you stay at my house for 2 nights. I want to see how crazy this pervert is. Sister Ren, thank you. Nan Xiaonan said happily, you're the first friend I made when I came here. Women help each other. Ren Xiling patted Nan Xiaonan's shoulder. You're a girl, and it's really not easy for you to come here to work alone. The people in that bureau are a group of uncouth men, so naturally, they don't know how to take care of girls. Don't worry, you just stay here and work as usual. If anyone dares to bully you, just tell me. Sister Ren, you're so nice. Nan Xiaonan smiled sweetly. Ren Xiling said, but we still have to call the police. We can't let that pervert continue to be rampant just because we haven't caught him yet. And I'll listen to you. Nan Xiaonan nodded obediently. After another round of comforting, Ren Xiling looked at the time. It was almost lunchtime, so she simply said, how about this, you pack some clothes now, and I'll go to eat with you later. Then you can leave your things at my house. Anyway, I'm more free now. It's okay if I don't go back to the company in the afternoon. I'll accompany you all the time. What I want is for you to accompany me all the time. At least before I figure out who is chasing after Nan Xiaonan's identity. Nan Xiaonan smiled. By the way, Sister Ren, is it inconvenient for me to go to your house? It's okay. Ren Xiling shrugged and said, only my son and I live at home. My son is very obedient and can do housework. He's good-looking and scholarly. He won't mind. That's good. Nan Xiaonan nodded. I'm afraid your son will mind. I'm having dinner with him tonight. You should come too. Ren Xiling said directly, when you see him, you'll know that I'm right. But let me tell you, my son has a girlfriend. Don't you dare have any ideas about him. Nan Xiaonan thought to herself, how old can your son be? Of course, she was also curious. Ren Xiling obviously didn't have any signs of giving birth. How could she have a son? Was he adopted? She smiled and didn't say anything. She was afraid that Ren Xiling would suddenly change her mind, so she quickly walked into the bedroom and packed her luggage. In an office on the top floor of a building, a white-haired old man was sitting in a stylish office chair at this time. At this time, a young man in a suit and leather shoes walked into the office. Boss! The young man walked to the back of the chair and called out respectfully. After coughing twice, the old man turned the chair around and said indifferently, How is it? The young man said with a dignified expression, Boss, number 7 is dead. The heartbeat sensor we implanted in his body stopped, so we sent someone to check and confirmed that he was dead. He was shot in the back of the head. Number 7 was planning to kill the target at that time, but someone sneaked in and shot him from the back. What? The old man's eyes narrowed. Nan Xiaonan has someone protecting her? I don't know yet. The young man said, I'll send a few more people. The old man said, Don't be impulsive. Last time we found the USB flash drive that Qin gave to Nan Xiaonan, but we didn't expect that she could survive the car accident. And this time, number 7 also failed, so there must be someone protecting her behind the scenes. It might even be, the young man said. You mean, Qin? After all, we didn't find the body, right? The old man snorted coldly. You're getting more and more useless in the way you do things. Boss, I'm sorry. The young man lowered his head. The old man waved his hand and said, Since number 7 is dead, the person behind the scenes must have noticed us. Although we have the information on the USB flash drive, Nan Xiaonan must have seen the information. We must not let the information leak. We must get rid of her and the person behind her. Then what should we do? Send someone to monitor first and see if the person behind the scenes will appear. The old man's tone was cold. I've waited for so many years, I can't let my efforts go to waste. I know what to do. The young man nodded. I'll arrange it now. After the young man left, the old man slowly sighed and then began to cough crazily. He covered his mouth with a handkerchief, and when he stopped coughing, the handkerchief was already stained with blood. Chapter 12:24. In the pugilistic world, the best way to gather information or find people was probably not the police, but the local tyrants. It wasn't that the police couldn't gather information, but in a very short period of time, they definitely couldn't compare to the people who made a living that day. It was just that they were in different fields. Although Zhou Yuxing was very confident in leading the team, it wasn't easy to find one or more unlicensed taxi drivers in just half a day. Moreover, it was drizzling non-stop, so the difficulty of finding people naturally increased a lot. It wasn't even convenient to eat nearby. This kind of place for private customers was naturally different from the environment outside the major bus stations. There were only a few shacks nearby, and some peddlers pushing tricycles to do business. There weren't many places to hide from the rain. Zhou Yuxing ran back to his car in a sorry state. The rain started to get heavier, and the drivers had already hidden themselves. Chen Mingming followed and sat in the passenger seat from the other side of the car. Zhou Yuxing took a few pieces of tissue and gave them to Chen Mingming. Check and wipe. Chen Mingming took the tissue, feeling a little touched. His parents might not have cared much about it in the past. Zhou Yuxing might have just done it subconsciously. It was a natural action, and Chen Mingming just instinctively took it. It was a logical action, a very simple scene. But why didn't he notice the camaraderie involved in this gesture in the past? What are you doing? Chen Mingming composed himself and saw Zhou Yuxing fiddling with a meat bun in a paper bag. This bun was bought from a tricycle stall nearby, so it was still steaming. At this moment, Zhou Yuxing tore the edges of the bun bit by bit, but he didn't eat it. Instead, he threw it back into the paper bag. Zhou Yuxing smiled. His face was full of stubble, and when he smiled, he looked like the skin of a hedgehog. He handed the torn bun over. It doesn't taste good when it's wet. Eat it while it's hot. The rain shouldn't be long. You don't look good in the morning. Take a nap after eating. You still have work in the afternoon. Who would take care of you so carefully? Who would care if a simple bun tasted good or bad when given to you? Who would care if you slept well at night or if you were energetic in the afternoon? It was quiet inside the car. The rain fell on the car. The air conditioner was on and the radio was on. The nostalgic song Stories of a Small Town was playing. This was the sentiment of people from Zhou Yuxing's era. Chen Mingming closed his eyes and listened carefully to the singing and the sound of the rain. In this sealed and quiet environment there was a strange sense of security. All of a sudden, he only wanted to continue like this. How great would it be if this test was indefinite? He didn't feel like he had slept for too long. Perhaps it was only about 10 minutes, but he was clearly in better spirits. Chen Mingming felt a little sluggish. The rain outside hadn't stopped, and the rain hadn't lightened up. He curled up in the front passenger seat and didn't want to move. Zhou Yuxing's jacket covered him. It was very warm. Chen Mingming was a person with good self-control. He took a deep breath and sat up straight. Zhou Yuxing lowered his head and looked at his phone. When he heard the commotion, he casually said, "Wake up. Old Ma gave me some information. Let's find these people in the afternoon." "Officer Ma?" Chen Mingming was startled. Zhou Yuxing sighed. "Don't think that Officer Ma only knows how to play minesweeper in the office. I really can't compare with him in terms of finding people. He has a lot of spies. If you have the chance, you should learn from him." Chen Mingming nodded noncommittally. He took the phone and looked at it. He had the name and contact information. With the information provided by Ma Haud, it was much easier to find people in the afternoon. In less than an hour, the extremely unlicensed drivers were found. There were a total of 3 people. All 3 of them had the experience of driving from late November to December 1st last year. Take a look and see if you pulled this man over during this period. I just want to inquire about this man, not to catch you pulling private customers. We don't care about the traffic police. Zhou Yuxing took Wang Liang's photo and put it in front of the 3 drivers. After hearing Zhou Yuxing's words, the 3 drivers, who were still a little uneasy at first, quietly breathed a sigh of relief. It was not easy to make a living. Pulling private customers was more or less risky. 2 of the drivers looked at it for a while and shook their heads, indicating that they had never seen him. However, the 3rd driver frowned. After thinking for a while, he said, "Officer, this man. I should have pulled him over before." "Are you sure?" Zhou Yuxing, Chen Mingming, and the other colleagues looked serious at this time. If he had really pulled him over before, it proved that Chen Mingming's assumption in the morning meeting was very likely correct. The driver nodded. "Yes, it's him. I remember clearly because this guy gave me cash. He was the only one in the car who gave me cash. I asked him to transfer the money to me, but he refused, so we quarreled for a while. But I can't remember the specific day, but it must have been within these few days." Zhou Yuxing nodded. "Do you have a dashcam in your car?" The driver nodded. "Yes. We'll take it back for investigation, no problem? Zhou Yuxing said indifferently. What else could the driver say? He was already thankful that they only took away a dashcam and didn't arrest him. The progress of the investigation unexpectedly had a major breakthrough because of Chen Mingming's assumption. Everyone hurriedly returned to the station. After investigating the driver's dashcam, they found the image of Wang Liang's appearance, and the time was on November 23rd of last year, which was the night Wang Liang returned from X City. Wu Rong bought a train ticket back to City X on November 25th. In this way, it was very likely that Wang Liang had already killed Wu Rong before the 23rd, or knew that Wu Rong was dead. So he came back on the same day and then disguised himself as Wu Rong. On November 25th, he came back as Wu Rong, creating the illusion that Wu Rong was still alive after her death. Captain Zhou, I just received a call from Sir Ma. They also found an unlicensed driver in City X, and it has been confirmed that he pulled Wang Liang back from City X on the night of November 29th last year. A colleague said hurriedly. Sure enough, everyone was suddenly enlightened. On the morning of November 29th, Wu Rong took the train and left City X. The train arrived at City X in the evening, so Wang Liang had enough time to find an unlicensed driver and come back from City X. It's very obvious now. Wang Liang might have already killed Wu Rong, or he might have already known about Wu Rong's death and stolen her phone account. All these signs indicate that the possibility of him killing someone for money is very high. But here comes the question. Who killed Wang Liang? And why did they arrange the scene to be similar to the scene of Wu Rong's death? Zhou Yuxing heaved a sigh of relief and patted the table lightly. After we're done with the case, we'll start from the very beginning. There must be something that we missed. Everyone, work harder. Let's work overtime tonight. Of course, they were already prepared to work overtime. For the criminal police, every investigation was a long and difficult battle. Zhou Yuxing then said to Chen Mingming privately, "Give your mother a call later and tell her not to worry. He could actually do a good job." Suddenly, Chen Mingming had an epiphany. Whether it was work or family, he could actually do a good job. Chen Mingming sighed slowly. After a while, a colleague came over and asked him what he wanted to eat. It was only the third day since Chen Mingming came to this place with the identity of a police officer. But after 3 days of working closely with everyone, he already had a familiar feeling. After smiling, Chen Mingming said that he would just order a box of green pepper shredded pork rice for him. At this time, in the meeting room, everyone was excited and ready for work at night. Chen Mingming suddenly thought of Zhao Lu. He had left a message for Zhao Lu, so he didn't know how Zhao Lu was doing now. Chen Mingming took out his phone and wanted to find Zhao Li's account on social media. However, after searching for a while, Chen Mingming realized that he hadn't added Zhao Lu as a friend. So, he hadn't added him before. In fact, the number of friends he had on social media was quite limited. Some of them had been added, but he hadn't even chatted with them. Did he really not add Zhao Lu as a friend? He felt like he had forgotten something. Chen Mingming subconsciously rubbed the space between his eyebrows. There seemed to be some stabbing pain in his head. However, he received a message from Tara. It was a greeting message, saying that if he didn't have enough energy, he could consider lending his legs so that he could have a good sleep. If there was a chance, Chen Mingming replied. There was no one following him, at least, there wasn't anyone beside him. Although his strength was so weak that it made Nan Xiaonan's hair stand on end, his willpower was much stronger than that of ordinary people, and he could still feel the danger within a dozen meters around him. After entering Ren Xiling's house, Nan Xiaonan had a very stable feeling. It was a very strange feeling. For some reason, she felt safe. She even had a rather inconceivable thought. She felt that in this clean and simple house, even if a level 10 superclass forbidden spell were to hit it, this house would not be damaged at all. Of course, this was just a delusion derived from the feeling of safety she felt. She didn't believe that this kind of concrete house could really withstand a level 10 superclass forbidden spell. A level 10 superclass forbidden spell was a calculation method of power in her original subworld. She didn't know what the calculation method of power in this subworld was. Although Nan Xiaonan had been sneaking in for some time, she was limited by the fact that she couldn't recover her strength. Thus, her exploration of this place was very limited. Moreover, she still had to avoid that mysterious pursuit. "This room is my son's." Renziling was holding a pillow and a bedding. "There is another room here that is empty. Usually we put some miscellaneous things in it, but there is a bed. You should sleep here for the next 2 days, right?" "I'll listen to you, Sister Ren." Nan Xiaonan smiled. "And you can sit and look around. I'll go take a shower. This damn weather is so sticky and uncomfortable." Renziling directly walked into the bathroom. Not long after, the sound of running water could be heard. After leaving her luggage, Nan Xiaonan began to walk to the balcony. She leaned against the windowsill and observed the outside, looking for possible dangers. Unfortunately, her senses were limited and the range of her senses was limited. As for the true sight ability, she didn't have enough strength left to activate it. If only she hadn't used that spell at the scene of Wang Liang's murder. She used that spell in order to solve the case as soon as possible and then leave. But now, she had to bow to reality and rely on the protection of Renziling, the child of the world. Even at her level, she couldn't help but sigh at the wonders of the world. "But there seems to be something good here." Nan Xiaonan frowned. The so-called something good came from Renziling's room. It was a very gentle elemental fluctuation. Seeing that Renziling still hadn't come out, Nan Xiaonan was driven by curiosity. She quietly opened the door to Renziling's room and walked in. A faint smell of smoke suddenly rushed into Nan Xiaonan's nose. Then, she saw that the room was messy and messy. Nan Xiaonan couldn't help but feel speechless. This was a completely different style from the clean and tidy room outside. The fluctuation of the something good came from under the bed. Nan Xiaonan squatted down. She didn't find the something good, but she found an ashtray hidden under the bed. "I feel that this woman's life at home isn't good." Nan Xiaonan looked at the ashtray hidden under the bed and couldn't help but shake her head. But the something good had been found. It turned out that it was kept under the mattress and pressed on the bedboard. Looking at the piece of jade in her hand that was warm to the touch and gave out a slight cool aura, Nan Xiaonan's eyes couldn't help but brighten. This thing wasn't very advanced. In her collection, she was afraid that it wasn't even qualified to be a part of her collection. But for her at this moment, it was no different from a piece of treasure. What was rare was that this piece of jade contained a unit of power that could be absorbed. This piece of jade could completely restore her unit of power to about 1%. This thing can't be used. It can only emit elemental power. Although ordinary people will get better and better if they stay in this environment for a long time, at best, they will only be strong and healthy and won't get sick easily. This kind of usage is simply a waste of God's gift. Nan Xiaonan instantly had the idea of taking this piece of jade. But after thinking carefully, she couldn't help but feel puzzled. Although Renziling was protected by the will of the world, she was indeed in the category of an ordinary person. She didn't have a trace of supernatural power in her body. This piece of jade was also secretly hidden and not directly used. Even if Renziling didn't know how to use it, it was much more effective to put it on her body, hold it in hand, or keep it close to her body than to use it through the mattress. So, someone secretly put this piece of jade in here? Who was it? Son? For a moment, Nan Xiaonan thought of the son that Renziling mentioned. Subconsciously, her eyes penetrated the door of Renziling's room and fell on the door of another room. Nan Xiaonan's heart suddenly beat faster. Her intuition told her that there was something special in this room. Her intuition had always been very accurate. Otherwise, she wouldn't have been able to get a chance to leave her original world when there were so many supernatural beings competing with each other. But at the same time, Nan Xiaonan also felt a terrible sense of danger in her heart. Should she open this door? Nan Xiaonan was in a dilemma in her heart. She swore to God that this was just a very ordinary door. But the contradiction in her heart was actually comparable to the time when she was fighting with one of the most powerful beings in the original world. Open or not? As if there was magic, Nan Xiaonan walked to the door and reached out her hand to the door handle. She could even hear the sound of her own heartbeat. Tap. The moment her hand touched the door handle, a slight sound suddenly startled Nan Xiaonan and made her heart beat fiercely. She was very familiar with this sound. It was the sound of the kettle automatically tripping after boiling water. Who boiled water? She didn't remember Ren Xiling boiling water when he came back. Nan Xiaonan couldn't help but have some cold sweat on her forehead. She carefully walked out of the corridor and went to the living room. The moment she came out, a silhouette entered Nan Xiaonan's line of sight. A young man, at this time, was turning sideways and pouring hot water from the kettle into an empty cup. His side profile was good-looking. She's usually a little careless. Maybe she forgot to greet you. I'm really sorry. Luoqiu turned around with the cup and smiled. Please sit down. Nan Xiaonan's mind was almost blank. Her soul and willpower were crazily trembling at this moment. Chapter 12:25. The sound of water was still coming from the bathroom, but in Nan Xiaonan's ears, it was like a torrential downpour. The trembling of her soul couldn't be faked. She was once an undying that faced the will of a world. She was even the strongest emperor amongst the undyings, one step away from eternity. But eternity was illusory. To a life form at her level, it was only a legend, so she didn't hesitate to go out and search, crossing time and time, just to find the earliest origin. No one told her what the origin was, but the moment she became an emperor, it was as if someone told her that the origin was her eternal home. The will of the subworld was one of the biggest obstacles that stood in his way. The heavens fell and the earth cracked. The true end of the world had arrived. Countless warriors fell in an instant. The order of the subworld was completely destroyed. All life forms returned to their most primitive state. She had never forgotten that era. All the undyings and pseudo-undyings had fought against the heavens. When the strongest people in the world gathered together to challenge it, it finally appeared. Just like the feeling it gave her now, no, it was even more intense, several times, dozens of times, it was hard to estimate. Nan Xiaonan's face instantly turned pale, her brain started to move crazily, her spirit once again entered the acceleration mode that surpassed the laws of physics. Sit. Luoqiu glanced at Nan Xiaonan, casually saying, thinking too much is not good for your body, you don't have extra fat in your body to support your brain's activity. Nan Xiaonan overall had a bony body, slender and thin. The acceleration of her spirit suddenly stopped. Nan Xiaonan took a deep breath. She knew that if this young man in front of her was really the embodiment of the will of a world, she had no chance of resisting in this state. Even her original body might not be able to break free. Nan Xiaonan silently sat on the sofa. The sofa was obviously comfortable and soft, but she felt like she was sitting on pins and needles. Luoqiu placed a cup of water on the tea table in front of Nan Xiaonan. Thank you. Nan Xiaonan forced out an ugly smile, holding the cup. When the temperature of the teacup reached him, he realized that his hands were already cold. However, it wasn't hot at all. Obviously, it was a temperature suitable for entering the mouth, and not scalding hot water everywhere. Nan Xiaonan was slightly stunned. This was indeed a temperature suitable for greeting people. You are the will of this subworld? She took a deep breath, and her mind gradually calmed down. She had always been a strong-willed person. Otherwise, she would not have fought for a sliver of opportunity in the midst of a terrifying and hopeless situation. She had the precious opportunity to explore space and time. Nan Xiaonan sipped the warm water and stared at him without blinking, trying to see more. I'm not, Luoqiu shook his head and said, but it should listen to me for now. Cough. Choking on a mouthful of water, Nan Xiaonan coughed painfully. I'm not. But it should listen to me for the time being. Nan Xiaonan didn't listen to what he said, and her accelerated thinking kept repeating these two simple sentences. She vaguely felt a stomachache. Nan Xiaonan didn't doubt the authenticity of these two sentences. It was true. The higher the level of life, the deeper the understanding of the will of the subworld, and the more the connection with the will of the subworld. Ordinary people wouldn't have any reaction even if they pointed at the sky and cursed, unless they were really angry and resentful. But at most, it would just be a little bit of thunder. But transcendents were different. If they didn't have a heart of reverence but resisted from the heart, they would easily cause natural and man-made disasters. It was very effective and came very quickly. Like this guy, the will of the subworld didn't have any reaction at all. What kind of existence did I encounter? Nan Xiaonan finally stopped this useless acceleration at this moment, because she intuitively felt that even if she reduced all the heat in her body and exhausted herself, she might not be able to come up with a solution. She couldn't help but be calm, or rather, she had to be calm. The trembling in her soul didn't stop. This level of confrontation couldn't be described by simple units of power, and was even more dangerous. It's said that the subworld in front is more dangerous. Why didn't I listen? Nan Xiaonan wailed in her heart. She kept dodging danger, but she didn't expect that the more she dodged, the more dangerous the danger she encountered. She even came here unknowingly. Relax. Luoqiu suddenly said. Don't feel it. I can't hide the soul ripples on this level for now, you'll get hurt. She was already very hurt, is this better? Luoqiu quickly asked. That feeling of soul trembling slowly subsided, and Nan Xiaonan felt a sense of relief. While her soul was trembling, she simply couldn't make too many responses. Even when her thoughts accelerated, it was as if she had fallen into a stagnant state, and even her thinking speed was much slower than under normal circumstances. Nan Xiaonan slowly heaved a sigh of relief. This time she was truly relieved. He said that he couldn't hide her soul ripples for the time being. Then what was going on now? Did he use something to hide it? I met a Mr. called 24 not long ago, Luoqiu thought for a moment and said. Lady Nan, your original body should be stronger than his. 24. Nan Xiaonan frowned. Luoqiu said softly. He should be the same as you. Because of the space-time fluctuation last time, he accidentally got involved in this place. Nan Xiaonan's face stiffened slightly. He already knew. She had been so careful. The funny thing was, he had already seen it. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to disturb you. Nan Xiaonan took a deep breath. I'll leave right away. The other party didn't seem to have malicious intentions for the time being, and he was unexpectedly polite. This made Nan Xiaonan feel a little strange, but on second thought, the other party might just want her to back off. At this time, she had already thought of the identity of this young man. Perhaps he was the son that Ren Xiling mentioned. She even understood another thing, the reason why the will of the subworld was so high-profile and publicly protecting. It turned out that she was wrong. Ren Xiling was not the child of the world at all, but a person who was publicly protected by the will of the subworld. That was not protection, but protection. Don't worry, let's talk. Luoqiu smiled and sat down. Nan Xiaonan's heart tightened, and then her expression became strange. This man, who made the will of the subworld submit to him, she was actually chatting with him in such a commoner's home. Shouldn't this be in a majestic palace, in front of the supreme throne, or at the top of the world? This was the right way to open the door. Talk about what? She had forgotten how many years it had been since she was this nervous. It was as if she was still a little apprentice standing in front of an undying emperor. Lady Nan, do you know the number of your subworld? Luoqiu thought for a while and asked. Nan Xiaonan nodded. Number 0124. Subworld of magic law. But the concept of subworld was corrected after I explored space and time. In the original subworld, the concept was the plane. I see. Luocio nodded. The altar was omniscient, but as the boss, he had to pay a price to share its information. So, it was time for Luocio to get information without paying a price. The club or the altar would not appear in every subworld, or it could be said that it was based on the thoughts of the executors, and randomly chose the place to do business. It seemed that in the subworld number 0123, there were no related legends. In Nan Xiaonan's knowledge, there was no concept of a shop that could sell anything. Luocio suddenly liked this situation. He already had the ability to freely open and close transactions, unlike before where he was passive. And now, he met a visitor from a subworld who didn't have the concept of a club, which gave him a sense of novelty. He could freely change his identity, but Nan Xiaonan also had the right to come to the club. Forget it, if Nan Xiaonan really came, he would receive her as the boss. There was no need to hide anything. Even if Luocio stood in front of Nan Xiaonan without any concealment, Luocio's personal identity and his identity as the boss would be completely separated in the customer's perception, unless he let go of the distinction and let the connection continue. Boss Luo began to calculate in his mind, but Nan Xiaonan didn't even dare to breathe. In Nan Xiaonan's heart, she had long regarded this young man as the real outer level, perhaps the legendary primordial eternity. Otherwise, how could he have such a terrifying ability to suppress the world's will and make it listen to him? Lady Nan, can you tell me about your original world? Luocio smiled and said, I'm more curious. Nan Xiaonan could only nod. Her clear voice slowly sounded, and she talked about the situation of her subworld. The world map of the subworld number 0124 was different from the subworld number 0003, where Luocio was. After several changes, there were only 2 subworlds left, and there were only 2 races left. One was Nan Xiaonan's original human race, and the other was the demon god race. These 2 races were only born after the dark age of the subworld number 0124, and the 2 races had lost the relevant history before the Dark Age. They only knew that it was an apocalyptic disaster. Countless powerhouses died when the Dark Age came. The world was in turmoil and all civilizations were wiped out. No records could be found, not even relics could be found. The way to use power was a new development, but it seemed to still use the concept of magic. The unit of power was the standard to calculate the ability of an individual. In the original world, Nan Xiaonan learned a lot, but her main profession was Star Creation Saint Guide and Arcane Master. Arcane Master was easy to understand. It was a method to use magic to attack. Star Creation Saint Guide? Luocio blinked curiously and said, What kind of ability is that? Nan Xiaonan said proudly, Star Creation Saint Guide, simply put, is the ability to use the power of a star spirit and use related spells to create life. In the subworld where I came from, there were only 3 Star Creation Saint Guides in the tens of thousands of years after the Dark Age. I'm the last one. Can create life? Luocio was startled. Can true souls be created? True souls. Nan Xiaonan was also startled, but she had experienced a few subworlds, so she immediately reacted. You're talking about true souls, right? It should be the same concept, Luocio said. Nan Xiaonan shook her head and said guiltily, The creation of true souls is at the level of the Creator. It's at the level of the world will. I can't do it. The so-called life is actually giving an object a simple thought, and at the same time, modifying the structure of the object itself so that it has the ability to move and talk. Also, depending on the difficulty of the spells, the abilities of star creation creatures can be strong or weak, or even have no abilities at all. It's a bit abstract. Can you show it to me? Luocio was more practical. Nan Xiaonan smiled bitterly. With my current power, I can't even use 1 star creation spell. Also, I haven't analyzed the rules of this subworld. Even if I have enough power units, I'm afraid the spell I use won't be able to create a highly intelligent star creation creature. In that case, Luocio thought for a moment, then snapped his fingers and said, "You can try it now. Use this." At this time, a pink pillow automatically flew to Nan Xiaonan. Try it? Nan Xiaonan was startled. Wasn't this powerful being hiding in the subworld making things difficult for her? Nan Xiaonan smiled bitterly in her mind. With the remaining power units she had. Power units? 30,000 power units? 30,000 power units? When did this happen? At the same time, the world laws of this subworld were like equations that were being verified. They were crazily unraveling in Nan Xiaonan's soul, and the power of the laws clearly carried out a terrifying verification and fusion with her knowledge. Nan Xiaonan sucked in a mouthful of cold air. She felt as if she had become a native of this world in an instant. That kind of stagnant feeling that had always existed in this world had completely disappeared. No. He had directly added the power system of her original world into the rules of this subworld. Nan Xiaonan's heart was beating so fast that it was about to jump out. When she looked at the man in front of her again, she could no longer think. Just because he was curious to see what the star creation technique was, he directly added another system into the world's precepts, and it was only a matter of a breath. Why was he so willful? Was this the so-called big boss? "Can I demonstrate now, Lady Nan?" Luocio asked with a smile. Yes. Nan Xiaonan swallowed her saliva. Her hands trembled as she took down the floating pillow in front of her. However, although 30,000 power units was still far from her heyday, it was enough to use a star creation spell of the highest level. In fact, the star creation spell did not have many power unit. The key was to master the power of the rules within. Nan Xiaonan took a deep breath. She was afraid that if her star creation technique couldn't satisfy the opponent, she didn't know if it would usher in a real terror. She didn't dare to deal with it at the moment. Her mind instantly sank into the world of technique. Her fingers slowly began to draw on the surface of the pillow. One by one, strange symbols were written on the surface of the pillow. The symbols were emitting a bright red luster, just like the color of blood. Nan Xiaonan's forehead was gradually covered in fine sweat. This was the first time she had put in the most effort in carving since she became an undying emperor. The amount of effort she put into carving was close to the time when she had the opportunity to become an undying emperor. But why was it a pillow? The highest level star creation spell was used on a pillow. Nan Xiaonan felt that her star creation spell was crying silently. Finally, when all the symbols were carved and merged into the pillow emitted a bright red light. In front of Luocio's eyes, the pillow suddenly flew out. Its shape began to undergo some strange changes. First, a short address appeared. Then, a pair of furry eyes appeared on the pillow. A crack appeared on the pillow, and then it turned into a big mouth. Then it began to jump on the floor. Chapter 12:26. Master, I can finally talk to you. The voice was tender, like a girl's voice. The softness of the pillow did not change, but he could feel a strong life force. Luocio even saw the brilliance of the soul. Of course, it was only at the level of a false soul at best. He was quite interested. He reached out and pinched other parts of the pillow, and found that the pillow's mouth was giggling. When the pillow suddenly made an unclear moaning sound, Luocio directly withdrew his hand. Why does it call me master? Luocio looked at Nan Xiaonan again. Since you created it, you should be the master. Generally speaking, this is the case. Nan Xiaonan nodded. But this kind of astral creation creature, if it has deep feelings with its own owner before it is given life, these feelings will not disappear even after the creation of the astral creation creature. Although I am its creator, it recognizes you as its master, so I can't do anything about it. Of course, there was a way, but it probably did not work on him, right? This was the most advanced astral creation technique. How could it directly cut off its relationship with itself and recognize someone else as its master? I bought it back. It has been a few years. Luocio nodded. Although he was the one who bought it, Ren Xiling was the one who used it the most. Ren Xiling often used it to vent her emotions. But if that was the case, the one who had the deepest relationship with it should be Ren Xiling, right? The most advanced astral creation creature, which was created with all its effort, was not much different from Nan Xiaonan's own child. At this time, looking at the astral creation creature in Luoqiu's arms, Nan Xiaonan always felt that her child had recognized a thief as its father. Give it a name. Nan Xiaonan forced a smile, her heart bleeding. After the astral creation creature is named, you can usually directly summon it through its name. When not in use, it will automatically return to the astral creation space. But there seems to be no astral creation space here, so it should return to the astral creation space that belongs to me. This astral creation space was not the space of her body, but a new astral creation space that was naturally born after a part of her will could combine with the rules of this subworld. It was still empty, and a very small one at that. Luoqiu patted the pillow in his arms, and it turned around and sat directly on Luoqiu's lap, letting him hug it casually, showing an expression of enjoyment. Let's call it Mian Mian. Luoqiu lowered his head and smiled. The pillow. Mian Mian Mian. Then, Luoqiu's mind moved, and Mian 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 disappeared from his arms, but it did not go to Nan Xiaonan's astral creation space. Nan Xiaonan was hit again, and did not dare to say anything more. Instead, she said, "This is the highest level of astral creation creature, so it has its own unique ability. With the increase of time, its ability will continue to grow. Generally speaking, the ability is based on its original body. This hug. Mian Mian's current ability is to grow and shrink, as well as attack reflection and water absorption space." Luoqiu asked curiously, "You used to use astral creation creatures to fight?" Nan Xiaonan nodded and said, "Some are used to fight, and some are used to satisfy daily life. For example, my original astral creation space has a castle, and after astral creation, I can move around. I named it Hell, and it can participate in battles and also live there." Very interesting ability. Luoqiu smiled. Everything has a spirit. We have a term called spirit monster here, which refers to an object that, due to long-term companionship or absorption of the spirit energy of heaven and earth, gives birth to spirit intelligence and becomes a spirit monster. This astral creation creature has a similar concept to spirit monsters. It's just that spirit monsters are born naturally, while yours is artificially promoted. You should have come into contact with some of the borderline parts of the creator. Nan Xiaonan revealed a proud smile. She had no choice. The other party gave her too much pressure, making her feel like an apprentice facing an undying emperor. She really could not bring out any results that could be said to speak of. It was really too powerful, beyond the dimension's power. Receiving Luoqiu's praise in front of him, Nan Xiaonan even felt like she was being praised by her teacher. "All right, thank you for showing me such an interesting ability." Luoqiu pondered for a moment. "I won't take benefits from others for free, consider this as compensation." As he spoke, the abundant power units instantly disappeared, and once again returned to the original pitiful value after the decimal point. The subworld laws that had spread out and merged in Nan Xiaonan's soul were directly stripped out just like that, and the laws of this subworld were once again covered in a thick fog in front of her. Nan Xiaonan did not hide her disappointment, as if she had returned from heaven to hell in an instant, but at the same time, she had directly received the recognition of this subworld. In the past, she was just an unregistered person without an identity, but now she had a green card and could live as a normal citizen. As for arcane techniques or more advanced astral creation techniques in the future, she could only use her own analysis of the world's laws to strengthen and recover step by step, but at the same time, she had already recovered the ability to practice normally. Although she had fallen from her best state 2 minutes ago, it was equivalent to solving the biggest problem. The rest was just a matter of time. "Thank you, Senior." Nan Xiaonan looked at Luoqiu gratefully. Nan Xiaonan really could not figure out what level of life level this person had reached, but it was definitely above the Emperor level, but she was not sure if it was the original eternal level, so she could only call him senior. My name is Luochio. Luochio smiled slightly. Just call me by my name. As he spoke, Luochio stood up, which made Nan Xiaonan nervous, but unexpectedly, this terrifying senior just gave her a new cup of warm water. The original cup was already cold. Nan Xiaonan, who was quite flattered, hurriedly received it with both hands this time. Luochio continued, I basically know about your situation. As for Nan Xiaonan's identity. Nan Xiaonan knew that they were just chatting, but now it was official, so she immediately raised her voice. Luochio thought for a while and said, since you've accepted Nan Xiaonan's identity, you should naturally accept her fate. You need to solve the problem of being hunted down by yourself. I know. Nan Xiaonan hurriedly nodded. I'll find an excuse to leave here. This powerful being had already given her an official identity, which was equivalent to solving her most difficult problem, so she did not dare to expect too much. No. Luochio shook his head. She agreed to take you in for a few days so you can stay here for a few days. But don't talk about me, and I'm not usually here. Just don't enter my room or her room. Besides, give me back my things. Nan Xiaonan awkwardly handed over the jade artifact in her hand. This jade artifact disappeared the moment it was handed over, but judging from its aura, it had already returned to its original place. Ignoring space, Nan Xiaonan secretly took in a breath of cold air. He was indeed a terrifying powerful being who could press the will of a subworld to the ground. In this subworld, the other party was probably at the level of a creator who could do whatever he wanted. Senior. No, Mr. Luochio. Nan Xiaonan said nervously. I'm being hunted down now. If those people who are hunting me offend you or Miss Rin, Luochio said indifferently, your matter will be continued after you're done with your stay. Continued? Nan Xiaonan was startled. Even fate could be controlled so casually. Do you still lack small things like pendants on your legs? Even so, Nan Xiaonan naturally didn't dare to stay in this place. Now that she could officially cultivate, it would be time for her to leave after she regained the ability to protect herself. Luochio said at this time, but you can't stay here for free. Your star creation technique is very interesting, so you can use it to pay for the room. Nan Xiaonan didn't dare to say no at this time. Star creation technique was not a secret in her original world. Like the arcane technique system, it was an ability that was learned by people in the world, but she was the only one who could become a star creation saint guide. Senior, it takes a little time to write. Nan Xiaonan whispered. It doesn't matter. Luochio smiled faintly. Just give it to me before you leave. At this time. Whoosh. At this time, the door of the bathroom was opened, and a trace of white mist spilled out. Ren Xiling walked out in thin clothes while wiping her hair with a look of enjoyment. Hey boy, when did you come back? Aren't you wandering around outside? Ren Xiling blinked her eyes. Of course, she didn't feel surprised, because they had been living under the same roof for several years. Luochio was familiar with her, like a family member. I came back to get something, Luochio said casually, and then said indifferently, go back to the room and put on some clothes. It's easy to catch a cold after taking a bath. I know, Aunt Luo. Ren Xiling pouted and walked back to the room. After that, Nan Xiaonan sensibly returned to her room, which was originally a utility room. She knew that this senior was willing to take her in for a few days, which was already a great kindness. He even gave her the official recognition of the world. She didn't dare to ask for too much. She quickly fought for these few days of protection and entered the state of cultivation to restore the ability to protect herself. After that, Nan Xiaonan excused herself that she didn't feel well and wanted to rest, and refused Ren Xiling's invitation to celebrate her promotion in the evening. Ren Xiling didn't force her. As for whether it was dangerous to put a stranger in her house, Nan Xiaonan was a forensic doctor with a clean background. She had nothing to worry about. If it were someone else, they would have considered it carefully. Even if they wanted to take her in, they wouldn't have agreed so casually. After preparing in the room, Renziling took Luocio out, and couldn't wait to see her future daughter-in-law. "Hey, are we going to pick up Yuyi?" In the car, Renziling turned her head, blinking, and asked, "Speaking of which, I still don't know where she lives." "Let's go to the gate of the park. She's waiting there." "Oh, okay. Let's go." Mammy Ren stepped on the accelerator. "Slow down," Luocio said expressionlessly. "Wrong." Renziling shrunk her neck. The red minicar slowly drove out of the garage. Soon after, the car drove to the gate of the park. The beautiful blonde woman, who was carrying a woman's bag and wearing a gray-white checkered coat, was Miss Maid. Night fell. In the rented house, the freezer placed in the center of the living room began to vibrate after a dark red light flashed. A crashing sound came from the inside of the freezer. Soon after, something fell on the floor, and then a compressor squeezed out from below. At the same time, the parts of the compressor began to change, dispersing and reorganizing. Soon, short legs and arms that could move were reorganized. At this time, the compressor stood there quietly, without any movement. In the guest room of Luocio's house, Nan Xiaonan suddenly opened her eyes. "Oh no, I forgot about the freezer." Nan Xiaonan knitted her brows. She thought that the matter of her being hunted down would only be continued after she left. So, she assumed that the almighty expert wouldn't deceive her. She then put on her clothes and quietly went out of the door. Although she wasn't in the mood for a transfer after solving the case for the time being, things like star creation biology still couldn't be easily exposed. She didn't care too much about the fact that Nan Xiaonan's identity was being hunted down. What she cared about was the other enemies who were trapped here with her. The moment Nan Xiaonan went out, the strong sense of security was stripped away. She thought it was ridiculous that a 10-star supra-level forbidden spell would be unscathed in this house. Now that she thought about it, she was afraid it was true. I've been officially recognized. Does this count as cheating? Nan Xiaonan walked into the elevator, and couldn't help but think of this problem. Thinking about it, those few enemies, and the one who was involved in the battle between her and her enemies, and unfortunately lost here, shouldn't be so lucky as to meet such an easygoing almighty, right? Looks like my luck has finally changed. Nan Xiaonan had a comforting smile on her face. Thinking about it, the elevator suddenly turned dark and stopped. It turned out that the elevator had broken down. She couldn't smile anymore. In the buffet restaurant on the highest floor of the hotel, there was a circular floor-to-ceiling glass window that could overlook the city. It was rare for Nanny Wren to get a promotion and a raise, so she had invested a lot in it. However, when she was eating, she would secretly glance at Miss Maid's belly from time to time. When will it rise? Sister Wren, is there anything on me? Noticing Renziling's gaze, Yuyi asked softly. No, I just think that your clothes are so beautiful and suit you very well. Where did you buy it? I'll buy one later, ha ha ha. I don't think you can buy it. Miss Maid smiled and said, I haven't sent this design out yet. It's not produced in the market yet. Design? Renziling blinked. Are you a fashion designer? Yes, I'm just interested in it. Miss Maid said softly, if Sister Ren likes it, I'll make some for you later. Luocio looked at the conversation between the two with a smile. Time passed by slowly. Renziling suddenly sucked the pasta into her mouth and muttered, I remember now. Remember what? Luocio asked curiously. Renziling patted her head. I remember where I saw the foreign old man in the photo. Dr. Will Douglas, the winner of the Nobel Prize in Biology 6 years ago. Chapter 12:27. Wait a minute. Renziling said as she took out her phone and began to search. Found it, Will Douglas. Will Douglas was a well-known researcher in the field of bioengineering. He was the first to participate in the Human Genome Project. This project was not an independent group or individual project. It was a grand project that involved the cooperation of several major countries in the world. A large number of different teams participated in this grand project, which lasted for 16 years. Finally, in 2006, Will Douglas' team published the genetic sequencing of the last human chromosome, chromosome 1. Since then, the Human Genome Project had entered the final stage, and it was announced that the interpretation of the human genome had reached a certain level. However, in the 6 years since then, Will Douglas was not satisfied with this level. Instead, he hoped to be able to completely decipher the genome. What he wanted was a complete picture, not a sketch that looked no different from a completed picture. Finally, 7 years ago, Will Douglas once again pushed the progress of the project forward as an individual. He even discovered for the first time a special chromosome that had never been seen before. The discovery of this special chromosome was known in the field of bioengineering as possibly the real forbidden zone of life and the ultimate secret of God's creation of mankind. Benefiting from this huge achievement, Will Douglas won the Nobel Prize in Bioengineering the following year and became famous all over the world. However, interestingly, less than 3 months after Will Douglas won the award, it was exposed by a foreign media organization that this was the most serious fraud in the history of biology. The so-called special chromosome discovered by Will Douglas did not really exist in the human genome map. It was just an artificial product that Will Douglas had inadvertently synthesized. The foreign media organization obtained Dr. Will's research data from somewhere and confirmed the process of his artificial chromosome synthesis. They also pointed out that there might be a huge transfer of benefits between Dr. Will and the judges of this award. This incident was quite serious in the international media back then. Ren Xiling sucked on the bone of the lamb chop and said, there was a long lawsuit. In the end, Will Douglas Award was taken back by the organizing committee, and the organizing committee also permanently fired several team members. In the end, Will Douglas disappeared after paying a huge fine. Why are you guys looking at me? Sister Ren is really passionate about work. Yu Yi smiled slightly. Ren Xiling was stunned and said awkwardly, it's an occupational disease. I forgot that today is a celebration. Ahahaha. Let's not talk about this, let's continue eating. There was no alcohol during the meal. Ren, whose stomach was almost bloated, drove away alone. Nanny Ren tactfully left the rest of the meal to the young man. After coming down from the buffet restaurant on the upper floor of the hotel, Boss Luo and his maid walked slowly on the street. Master, are you thinking about Dr. Will? Luoqiu nodded and chuckled. Leaving aside the matter of the special chromosome, the progress is really amazing. Mississippi Maid smiled. With the advancement of science and technology, human cognition has entered the microscopic and atomic level. As long as there is enough data, it is only a matter of time before we can obtain the entire genome of the human surface. What about the life-forbidden zone? Luoqiu glanced at the people walking by. Mississippi Maid suddenly said, in fact, it is already the limit. Next, it is not just a simple engineering category of life genes. Luoqiu curiously asked, what is that? Yu Yi said, soul engineering. Luoqiu knew that she was already there before she became a member of the club. Under the instruction of, she explored a lot of time and space. She couldn't help but ask, have you met it? Mississippi Maid recalled, yes, there is one. That world? They gathered the power of the whole world and created a so-called perfect soul. As a result, at the moment when the soul was born, the whole world directly entered death. All the conscious creatures came to an end in an instant. The world became a dead star. Mississippi Maid gently rubbed her long hair. At that time, the angel guards and I could only roughly restore this matter from some of the remaining records and some speculations. Until we left, no new creatures appeared in the world. Now, I don't know if it has recovered its vitality. Luoqiu was more interested in another thing. What about the so-called perfect soul? Since it has been born, is it still alive? Mississippi Maid shook her head. I don't know, but the will of the world was very weak when we found it. It doesn't even have any restraint for us, the explorers from the outside. This perfect soul has collided with the will of the world? Maybe. Mississippi Maid naturally reached out and patted her master's shoulder. A young leaf bud fell here, master. If you want to know how the world is developing now, you can go and have a look. I still remember the coordinates of time and space. Don't worry about this first. Luocio held her hand and continued to walk. There are still 2 days before the assessment. Besides, time and space are not short of time. By the way, I encountered an interesting thing today. Mississippi Maid showed a curious expression. Luocio slowly talked about his encounter with Nan Xiaonan in the afternoon. Unknowingly, they had walked back to the door of the club located in the commercial pedestrian street. Luocio took out the bolster Mian Mian at this time. It was obviously the first time that Mississippi Maid saw the magical species, Xing creation creatures, and studied it with great interest. From now on, you will live here. Luocio looked at the bolster spirit and said with a smile. Then he thought of something and added, accompany Luya. This child rarely left the room, probably because she was deprived of all her power. She was in a deep sleep most of the time and woke up for a limited time every day. Luocio didn't accompany Luya all the time. Sometimes when Luya woke up, he wasn't there, so he missed it. Yi had tried a lot of methods. So far, it only made Luya not resist, but there wasn't much progress. Luya was just more clingy to him. Luocio was also helpless about this. He didn't know if Mian Mian, the Xing creation creature, could bring some opportunities. He suddenly remembered the soul engineering that he had discussed with Miss Maid on the way back. He wondered if the star creation technique was another form of soul engineering of the magic law. He really wanted to see the principle of the Xing creation technique. Anyway, he didn't have to buy it himself. Nan Xiaonan suddenly shivered and then blew on her cold hands. She felt like someone was thinking about her. Was it the powerful senior who pressed the will of the world to the ground? Soon, Nan Xiaonan denied this idea. With the terrifying power of this powerful person, what could she have that could make the other party think about? It was probably the mysterious guy who wanted to kill Nan Xiaonan. Along the way, Nan Xiaonan didn't feel that someone was following her. It seemed that this powerful person wasn't exaggerating when he said that things would only continue after she left. But Nan Xiaonan soon thought of another thing. That was that Luocio said that he met an existence similar to her before. It seemed to be called 24. Not long ago. Nan Xiaonan was startled. Could it be that, among the lost guys, one of them appeared in this city like me? At that time, the situation was critical, and she didn't have time to think about the movements of the other guys. Everyone came here with great danger. They were probably very careful and didn't want to expose themselves easily. Looking for them was undoubtedly like looking for a needle in a haystack. But from the little information in Luocio's words, she keenly caught the information that there might be another stowaway here. There were traces of curse on Hai Dague's body that was found last time. This kind of curse power doesn't seem to be the original power of this world. Among my enemies, they are not good at using curses. Nan Xiaonan ate a chocolate bean and muttered while chewing, so, it is very likely to be the unlucky guy who got involved in the battle between me and my enemies. Thinking that there were already stowaways before her who trembled in fear in front of Luocio, Nan Xiaonan's mood suddenly became beautiful. Soon, she arrived at Wang Liang's rented house and found the completed star creation creature. This star creation creature was the simplest type that Nan Xiaonan had created based on her current level of analysis of the subworld's laws. It was the lowest level type. It had no value compared to Soft Cotton, who was created in a complete state by Luocio. It didn't even have the ability to talk. It only had the ability to understand some simple instructions. Moreover, it wouldn't exist for too long, at most 2 days. It wouldn't be like Soft Cotton, which could exist for a long time unless it was directly damaged. Originally, Nan Xiaonan came here again only to take back this star creation creature to prevent herself from being exposed. But since she was here, and the sense of justice that she inherited from the real Nan Xiaonan influenced her behavior. Find the person who put the body in the freezer. Nan Xiaonan used her unique mental waves to send an order to the star creation creature that was created with the compressor as its body. After that, the compressor, which had been motionless, magically moved. It slowly moved its leg that was made of spare parts and took a step, and then another step. The speed of its movement was like that of a remote-controlled robot played by a child. The compressor took more than 10 seconds to walk from the living room to the door. Then, when it reached the small staircase, it simply rolled down. At this moment, the muttering crows were flying around the basement that was more than 10 square meters. In this small space that was used for living and working, the young man 24 was sitting on an old sofa. His eyes were listless as he stared at a cup of noodles that was pressed down by a thick book on a square table. The ribs above his abdomen were still throbbing with pain. As a cursemancer, the most painful thing was that he didn't have the ability to heal. 24 sighed. 3 minutes had passed, and he began to enjoy this strange and convenient food. At the same time, he began to scroll through the screen of his phone to see if there was any business worth selling. After being injured last time, 24 became a lot more careful. He knew that there was an organization similar to the management of transcendence in this world. When he came to do business again, he couldn't be as impulsive as before. But 24 was eating instant noodles while recalling the encounter with the people from the administration last time. He frowned slightly. Why do I always have a feeling that I'm somehow the scapegoat? Idiot 24. Idiot 24. Idiot 24. The young man 24 threw out a thick book and shot the crow to the ground. At this moment, the door of the basement stairs was suddenly pushed open. 24's sleepy eyes opened slightly. A greasy-haired man in a suit and leather shoes walked down while covering his nose. Behind this greasy-haired man, there were 3 other strong and powerful men with flat-top haircuts. This place is really hard to find. It took me 2 days to find it. It's strange. After the greasy man came in, he looked around and muttered at the same time. 24 was slightly startled and immediately reacted. After being injured in this battle, the curse enchantment outside the basement hadn't been maintained for a day. Its function had already lost its effect. The greasy man looked at the young man 24 and frowned. Are you the boss of this house of terrifying curses? 24 easily saw the so-called disdain in the greasy man's eyes. But it couldn't be helped. Who asked him to eat cup noodles in this world, which was known as the food of the commoners in this world? Plus, he looked weak, slovenly, and gloomy with dark circles around his eyes. Naturally, it was hard to have a good impression of him. I am. 24 said weakly. Do you want to entrust me with something? If possible, let me finish eating first. I'm too hungry. The greasy man frowned again. At this moment, a man behind him moved a chair and let him sit down. My name is Qing Yun. The greasy man. Qing Yun said indifferently. The internet said that you can cast curses on people, right? Curses? Young 24 was stunned. He had learned about black magic on the internet during this period of time. However, it seemed that this black magic could only be shown in movies and TV work. In the real world, this kind of black magic seemed to be more of a trick. But 24 wasn't that artificial. After looking up some information about curses, he found that these curses were quite similar to this curses. Although it was still very rough, it already had a trace of power. Young man 24 speculated that there should be real curses in this world, but it rarely appeared in the real world. You can take it as one. Young man 24 answered weakly again. His analysis of the subworld's law was still very little, so the ability he could use was limited. If he was misunderstood as curses, then so be it, mainly because he was actually very lazy. My boss is looking for some capable people recently. Cheng Yun directly stated his intention. If you really have the ability, you will be paid a lot. If you don't have the ability, then don't work in this place. You try him. At this moment, one of the three strong men behind Cheng Yun walked out.